All right, to everybody on panel, I think most of you are familiar with my rules here. If I'm talking, you shut the
Don't
fuck
talk
up.
over her.
Thank you, Flesh. I appreciate that. Let's try to kind of round robin this at first. I know everybody's going to want to kind of dig in, so we'll start semi-structured. And I believe Mark mentioned during the video that he'll hang around for a little bit, but he does have to go soon. So if anybody does have questions directly for Mark, we want to kind of chime those in on the front end. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm. Flow State, do you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Sure. Okay, so it seems like, and this is my issue with this debate topic always, Christians they just gaslight, right? It's a complete gaslight of the other person's knowledge, and then an attempt to get them to agree on a presupposition. Just because you refuse to acknowledge the fact that you can't know if God exists doesn't mean that you actually know God exists. It just means that you're being deceptive in your approach to it.
Well, I think, and maybe Corinth will disagree that I accomplished this, and Mark. But I think that they would agree that if I did accomplish the impossibility of the contrary, then it would necessarily be true that theonomous epistemology would be correct. Would you agree with that, guys?
I didn't understand that.
What did you just
say?
But
the laws of logic, sure.
Yeah. So there's a problem there, though, with the deductive argument that you have to eliminate every single possibility, even ones that we don't know about. That's the problem, because you're making a deductive argument. You're saying, hey, I've eliminated everything else, and this is the only one remaining. And I think that sort of there's even possibilities of something that we haven't even come up with. So I think you're a really long way from showing that sort of a God is the only possibility there, and every contrary is impossible.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And I would just say that that's why the attempt of the argument is to funnel every possible worldview into two categories of theonomous and autonomous. Did I answer your question at all, Flo?
I mean, not really.
It would also probably depend on if you showed the impossibility through holding a standard that your view would also fail on. So if it is the case that the only thing we can certainly know is like the cogito or whatever, saying we don't know not that rock exists because we can't know anything outside of that with that standard, then saying that leads us to that rock exists doesn't actually follow either. That's a problem.
Consistent standard.
Alex, how did you know that God exists? And I'm the guy who sent $2 super chat saying, do you have another argument? That's just because you hung on second order knowledge so long. I was getting frustrated. I don't mean nothing personal.
Yeah.
But what was your evidence that God, was it you drew some type of logic conclusion that God must be real?
Yeah, so I don't want to gaslight you or get you upset again and get you frustrated with the same argument. But that's when you ask that question of how I know, I would give the same argument. That is the answer to that question.
Is it second order knowledge really mean that you're putting together first order knowledge? So you can be wrong through the gate when you're saying second order knowledge is the proof or something. I wasn't sure where you were going.
So a first order knowledge statement is a statement like, I know that my name is Alex.
Yeah.
A second order knowledge statement is that knowledge actually exists. Knowledge is possible. So my argument is that in making a first order knowledge claim, I know that my name is Alex. I'm also implying that knowledge is possible, which would be a second order knowledge claim.
All right. And I disagree with that, but we can hold that. I don't believe that you could even go with the first order knowledge with the name of Steve shit. That may not be real, but somebody else can go.
Yeah, so my thing is that like you can even grant them the whole tag argument, so like the whole kind of universal mind. So like in terms of Mark, what you're saying, even if we don't take that as a deductive argument, the fact that like we have these concepts that exist in the mind, but some of these concepts are like, so for a favorite color, that's a subjective one, but laws of logic, that's an objective one. This exists in our mind. The fact that there is these things that exist in the mind, but they're objective, it would stand to reason, or it could possibly be the case that there is an objective mind or divine intelligence, like Plato would call it, and all that kind of stuff. even if we grant that, the problem I have with Christian God, which I think Alex has mentioned that you want to stay away from debate, but I think you should have drilled down further, and it was Christians make the claim that God is all-knowing. If God is all-knowing, then God knows the future. If God knows the future, then that's fatalism. Ergo, we can't have free will. So how do they justify that God is all-knowing, but we also have free will?
Well, that's again an argument from consequence. You might disprove the Christian God, which gives free will, but you don't disprove a God like Calvinists that believe that, hey, we don't have free will and everything just unravels as a God. I realize I'm arguing the opposite here, and you'll find this a lot in me. But yeah, it doesn't disprove any God out there, just the God that says we have free will.
Doesn't disprove it, by the way.
It does.
Also,
Prove a negative, can you?
the Christians have God existing outside of time, which causes a lot of these issues with the idea of linearity of time. If God is outside of time, him being able to see it as like a long string rather than a given fragment doesn't really disprove that the string could have gone in a different way.
Yeah, but the claim is that we ourselves, we as humans have free will. And God cannot be wrong. God is infallible and God is all-knowing. Ergo, God knows the future.
Yeah, so I do agree. Free will would be an illusion. If God knows whether or not I'm going to drop this pen, and he knows that I will drop this pen, there is nothing I can do if that God knows I'm going to drop the pen to not drop it.
You don't even believe in time, right? You don't believe time is linear. What you're saying only works if you believe time is linear and that it plays a role when God knows. All right, maybe I'm confusing. You understand?
No. I believe in B theory, not A theory. So A theory is linear time. B theory posits that time is concurrent. It happens the same point all around the place and just is relative to itself.
So we can get rid of
that doesn't mean there's no time. Okay, that doesn't mean that.
But you can't say your whole argument, and one of your argument is that if God knows before and after, if those things don't exist, that's a poor argument.
Well, no, it's if God knows the causal events that and the outcome of every causal events, being omniscient, he would have to know the outcome of every single event that ever occurred. Then there's no, and he's always correct about that. He's never wrong. Then how do you in fact make a free will decision to do otherwise to what he knows will actually occur?
I'm not sure how the two are even related. If I
so Joe, let me give you the example. Right?
Yeah,
so when Jesus told Peter, you will deny me 3 times.
Yeah.
Did Peter have free will when Jesus told him that?
Oh, that's a good one. I think Peter would still have his free will. Just because I know the outcome. Hold on. I know the movie. I saw the movie. But during that movie, they had their free will to make it, to decisions to make. But just because I know the outcome, it doesn't change that they had free will during the process.
Joe, the definition of free will is where one could have done otherwise in the same situation. So in that situation, Peter, no matter what Peter done, he was going to deny Jesus 3 times, which is a contradiction. It's a logical contradiction.
Let's get off of Peter. The guy doesn't know what he's going to do. He chooses to do A, or he could have chose B. As God, I knew what his choice was going to be. He didn't. It was still his free choice.
It wasn't his free choice. Because he couldn't. Because God can't be wrong. God is infallible.
I understand your argument.
So he couldn't have changed. He couldn't have chosen otherwise, which means he has no free will. So Christians run into a contradiction here, where you're saying we have free will, but God's all knowing and is infallible.
I understand your argument. I absolutely disagree with it.
Now let me interrupt, gentlemen. Imperius comes in with his membership to say only Roman Catholicism is logically and materially true. Theism proves the scientific method. Inference, the best explanatory hypothesis. Dumbass atheists. You're welcome to respond.
I don't get that logically and material truth. Theism proves the scientific method. The scientific methodologies, and there's multiple of them, all with the same basic pattern, were formulated in sort of on the basis of falsifiability. The work of people that basically wanted to demonstrate that the best way to demonstrate that something is true is try to prove it false. And when you fail, then it's almost certainly true. So I'm not sure how this is just non sequitur. I don't sure how does
Just
that
claim.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay, I think the answer is okay, Imperius. Whatever you say.
Right.
Well,
And Plumpy
theism
coming
is
up.
belief. I don't understand how a belief proves anything. I don't. Wow.
Here.
And Plumpy with the Big 10 to say, Flo, you know darn well Jesus Christ is king. Sarah, can you please drop Flo for a few to remind him, please? God bless. Flow State, you got 10 minutes backstage, buddy. Have fun.
was
And I'll
great.
bring up Leo to fill your place.
That was great.
Hi, Leo.
And then
Good to see
Chuck
you,
in
mate.
Tennessee coming in with the Big 5 says, don't worry, there is a higher power. I've experienced it.
Very good, Chuck.
All right, back to you, gentlemen.
Yeah, if I could just have him about 2 minutes and then I'll make room for other people, Sarah.
As long as you give us a story, Tantman. You have to give us a personal story.
Well, no, I'm going to keep it nice and concise. So, statement, then a question for the people of the original panel. Statement is, Jesus is safe and effective and helps to slow the spread of communism. And then secondarily, to the 4 gentlemen at the top there. Hi, I'm 10th man. So, for the 2 gentlemen on the right there that are the anti-believing in God guys, you guys would contend that there could be a God, right? You're not arguing explicitly. There's definitely not a consciousness that could be controlling. Like, am I correct?
It depends on the modality you're asking under. Is
I'm
it
saying-
logically possible? Probably.
Sure.
Is it?
You'd say it's just as possible as there being life in the universe, right? Other than us.
No.
No.
Life is absolutely possible because we've confirmed it because we're alive. I don't even see how that follows.
We would need our
just
sense
because-
data to be false for there not to be life. We would need some metaphysical thing to be true.
But you don't have
for
proof of either, right?
Certain.
He's
proof,
saying
no.
life outside of
Evidence.
us. He's saying aliens. Talking about aliens,
Outside of
for
what's
example.
like life outside of what's on Earth
Oh,
and or in our
evidence.
solar
Yeah.
system.
But I
No.
don't believe in
Haven't got the
aliens
arguments.
either.
We haven't. better
That's not what I'm
inductive
asking. I'm just saying, do you
We have
even
better
a plant
inductive
or a
evidence.
single-celled organism?
We have
Yes.
better inductive evidence from more life outside of us. In the
So you
universe.
guys believe there is a God. Now to the other 2, and then I'm going to go. So
No,
to the
I
2
don't
guys on the
believe there's
left.
a God. So I want to be
No,
able
I'm
to
saying,
answer
do you
this
believe there
question
could be?
because the
Could-
logical possibility of something does not entail a belief in it. I could say, hey, it's logically
That's-
possible that a
yeah.
unicorn exists. There's nothing illogical about that, but I don't believe one exists. So you're conflating sort of a possibility, a logical possibility, with a belief that in an actuality.
Well
and that
said.
it doesn't follow.
Okay.
Yeah, most people
No, it
use
does.
empiricism to figure out what they believe in.
It does to me. So
that
and
what
then
It
to
seems
the
to
2
be the
guys,
most reliable method. Yeah.
and then to the 2 guys on the left there that are pro God. You guys believe that it's possible that there could not be a God.
No.
Okay.
No, it's logically
Same for Jeff. All right. Now, to either one of the 2 sides, would you ever try to force your beliefs on another or use them to try to get them to do things that you wanted to do? Either
Well, I
side.
can't answer for TOS reason. No, I'm just kidding. No, I would not
What do you mean
use.
by force?
I thought Alex was
would
going to whip out the sword and like
The-
bring
the-
back
the-
Crusades. Like,
Yeah,
holy
the
shit,
Christians
Alex, calm down.
Absolutely would force you. Yes.
Well, I would try and convince people, but I wouldn't use like physical force or coercion or threats or anything like that. So it depends on what you mean by what force my beliefs. I don't think I would, but that's sort
Well,
of
like in a-
under
in a-
definition of force.
In a secular society, for instance. You know?
Oh no, absolutely not. No.
See, but that's the reason why I want to ask these questions, because I believe that the 2 guys on
Okay.
the right hand side are just arguing for the sake of arguing, like we all like to do. But the 2 guys on the left do seem like they could just switch if they had the right amount of people around them and be like, yeah, we're just gonna eradicate the infidels. Anyway, I'll make room and I'll be up later.
All right, bees.
Thank you.
He does bring up a
Do you
fair point
always
in
have
terms of.
schizophrenic?
Oh man.
What kind of name is? Oh, okay. I took it the wrong way. I'm not that. That's my bad.
I call him Cock Squatch. His name's Caucasian Sat Squatch. But I always. Oh, and Chuck in Tennessee says to pick a panelist backstage. Mel, enjoy your time out for the evening. You got 10 minutes.
Greetings.
Damn.
Hello.
Hello.
Yo.
Am I supposed to come at y'all? I mean, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to
Cool.
go ahead, that's fine.
all right. So I'm an agnostic. I assume that there are cosmic laws that actually run all of this stuff and that we're all bound by them. And as such, I don't see why God would be any different in that point. Now, you can consider him the creator. I consider him the next level of power above us. My question is there a distinct difference there? Does it have to be either there is no God or there is one?
Yes, that's a true dichotomy. There is either is a God or there is not a God. So any proposition that you say, like there is a God, is either true or false, and that encapsulates all responses. But that isn't necessarily what you have to believe. You can say, well, I don't know if there's a God, which is the agnostic position. So you're sort of separating what actually is from what you believe, which can have a third response, which is that you don't know. But I don't know if a cosmic power would qualify as a God under my definition. Like I would define a God as necessarily an agent that has enough power to contravene or change the laws of nature. So I'm not sure if a cosmic power would even be a God in that case.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
I would just
sorry.
Wait. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I think he's asking anyone else wants to answer his question.
I was just going to say that you had mentioned that you were agnostic, and then you mentioned that you believed the laws of logic. Do I have that right?
Well, I believe that reality has certain laws that we can infer them through experimentation and perhaps the scientific method. Yes.
Okay. And I would just press you on how you could justify those laws.
Right. I got you.
Yeah. How you could
we'll chew on that later. We'll get to it.
I'm not going to be here for much longer, but just
Jeff, how did you know there was a God? How did you know or prove there was a God?
How did I prove it?
Yeah, well, what was your argument? It wasn't the second knowledge theory, was it? Did you have another way of proving God in your argument?
And Joe Cool, while he's answering that, you can take 5 minutes backstage to get your camera on. And then Plumpy coming in with the big 2 says, look out for the simp box. Yes, coming in clean. All right.
So this is my opening. I think it kind of answers your question. I think all transcendental categories that underlie any possible active perception need a specific type of metaphysic, a specific type of world, a specific type of logic, epistemology, reasoning, ethics, and a specific kind of structure to the world. It can't just be any old God to stick in there. You need a paradigm. It's not just abstract. It has to have specific things that the Orthodox Christ has. So, like, for instance, when I said how man has been made in the image of God, so we have the ability to reason, we have the ability to logic, because we think logic comes from God, knowledge comes from God. These are all revelatory, as my partner also said. And what else did I bring up? Oh, and then that basically all of that goes into like morals and all of that. The fact of the matter is, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No, yeah, go ahead, Jeff. If you haven't finished, I'm more than happy for you to finish.
Okay. Yeah, so like the point of it is with all of these things working together and how they work together, it seems almost astronomically absurd to me that there isn't some divine mind, some higher power out there. And that revelation happened like 10, 11 years ago, and that's what brought me over to the Christian God. The rest of the way is that the Christian God is the specific preconditions for this God that I'm talking about.
And before you answer, Rocky, you're going to the back. Flow State, you're coming back up.
You guys are fucked now.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I just don't understand. Like, you've sort of said all that you believe, and I grant you believe all of that. I just don't hear really why that is so. it seems to me like, and this is just to me, it seems like you've sort of said, well, it seems absurd that it could have arisen. All of these things can arise without a God. But that just seems to be an appeal to incredulity. Like, I don't believe it's possible, therefore a God exists. And that isn't really good evidence for me. That just sort of is saying, well, I believe these things, and I believe that they couldn't arise without a God. It doesn't actually get to why it is so because of a God.
It's I wouldn't say it's it's saying that you're being incredible, or I'm not saying it right, but
incredulous. Yeah,
there we go. The point is that any metaphysic, any ethic, any justification for anything, any grounding, is all faith based. It's all based on what we believe. It's all based on what we presuppose. What we're saying is, in order to even have these things that we observe and that exist in reality, there would have to be something outside of us. And if it's not that, what is it? And that's kind of what we're saying is the contrary.
An appeal to ignorance.
How's that ignorant? What makes
That's an appeal to ignorance because we don't know otherwise.
What makes it an appeal to ignorance?
Call me a nut, but how do you explain when you've had experience with something that is unexplainable?
You don't. That's not good evidence for anybody but you.
Well, and I also want to push back, Jeff, on the idea that everything we know is sort of faith-based, and I don't think that's true. It depends on how you're using faith, but I think that I try to make everything that I claim to know based on evidence and reason rather than faith, which is sort of, if you take the biblical definition of faith, it's things, the evidence of the unseen and the hope, the substance of things hoped for, which there's a problem there because things that you hope for don't have substance, and things unseen isn't evidence. So I sort of, I don't think I use faith, at least the biblical definition of faith.
Mark, sir, may I ask you a question, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. What's your theory on like the cosmological argument of the unmoved mover, that everything being set in place should have been set by something before it, so God must be real? I was just curious what you thought.
Are you talking about the Kalam?
Yeah, it's like one of the main scientific theories, right? It's called the unmoved. Let me look it up again. Unmoved mover. Unmoved mover. Yeah.
So I'm happy to say that I don't know if the universe even began to exist. So the Kalam basically says things that begin to exist need a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore the universe needs a cause. And William Lane Craig has sort of put extra things in there to say, hey, it must be timeless, spaceless, immaterial, all of these extra things in there. But the Kalam doesn't actually get to a God. It just says it has a cause. Now, I don't even know if the universe began to exist because according to contemporary physics, the Big Bang was the start of the expansion, not the start of the universe. And before that, there was no space-time. So I don't know how something begins to exist without any space-time, like in a quantum vacuum.
The other argument for that is to suggest that there is a first cause is also begging the question of what caused God. So I don't know if that...
Well, no, it doesn't, because the Kalam says everything that begins to exist has a cause. And so you can say, well, God didn't begin to exist, right? But then I don't know why you couldn't say, well, the universe didn't begin to exist, was in a quantum state with no space-time, and was in an atemporal state, like something that doesn't have time. I don't know why you couldn't say that as well. So essentially, Faithful Tomato, I honestly don't know what caused the universe. I just don't believe it was a God for the reasons I laid out during this debate.
And I guess like from just my perspective, and I say this humbly without trying to create any toxic arguments with anyone, as people from that look like me or parts of the world like Asia and stuff with more traditional cultures, I'm starting to think maybe theoretically we're living like 100 years before what our Anglo-Saxon brothers are living in currently, because I think the philosophical evolution has reached a point where questioning the idea of a creator is, it's culpable, and you're seeing these debates. But with us, specifically people from Asia or the Middle East, it's like even the scientists of those nations are very convinced that the design of the universe is in fact evidence that there is a creative intelligence behind it. And I'm not saying that's right. That's just, something I abide by because of what I was raised with.
Oh, there's tons of scientists that think the universe is designed due to their faith, but the problem is showing that scientifically using the scientific method. So a good question that I have is that if people do have access to a God, and it is their faith and religion which give them access to a omniscient mind that knows everything, why is it that the thing producing knowledge about the universe is actually science and not the religion?
I would push back on that by saying that a big chunk of your scientific theory is based on prediction that you claim to come from no prior knowledge of any kind.
What?
I'm sorry, I don't understand that.
So, like, you're saying that because I can demonstrate A is true because of my prediction of B circumstance, right? That means that you had some kind of a notion or prior knowledge that would give you the ability to make that prediction, correct?
Oh, induction? You're talking about induction? That the previous repeating events are reason to believe that they will repeat in the same pattern? Is that what you're saying?
Essentially.
Right. So, yeah, we notice that patterns, when they occur, they will keep repeating in the same pattern. That's basically induction. Now, there's a problem with induction. It's sort of saying, well, if it's all based upon repeating patterns, how do you know that induction will repeat and suddenly not break and suddenly, I'll drop this and suddenly it floats upwards? How do you know that's not going to happen? Like all of these laws that we rely on will break. And it's sort of like, well, yeah, we'll cross that bridge if we come to it. Because all of these patterns, they keep happening according to these patterns. So we can't. Just a second,
what
Dustin.
pattern?
Okay. Dustin, again, it's just a case that we can't absolutely prove that induction works, but it does work, right? It works for me. It works for you. When you cross the street, you don't go, well, I can't be guaranteed that if I see no car, a car won't appear out of nowhere and crush me, right? We all use induction.
What specific set of induction principles in line are you using as evidence to the negative existence of God? How are you proving a double negative?
Okay, so that's called shifting the burden of proof. It's basically saying, hey, prove that something that I've claimed does not exist. If I make it powerful enough to hide itself, like, for instance, I think Carl Sagan used a dragon in his garage that was immaterial, omnipotent, invisible, prove it doesn't exist. If you took that methodology for everything, then you would be forced to be intellectually consistent, to believe anything posited to you that you couldn't absolutely disprove. For instance, if I say, hey, I'm a Nigerian prince and I'll give you $5 billion if you send me 1,000. If I took that statement and I can't disprove that, I would have to do that to be intellectually consistent, and it's not a way to knowledge.
All those principles go right out the window the second you claim that this is based on a prediction. Okay?
Why is that?
That's just because you're taking a leap of faith.
I don't think so. I think that we see a lot of evidence for induction being true. Would you disagree with that?
I would disagree with your conclusion, but I do agree with you the idea that induction is a very solid principle.
Then what's the problem?
Your conclusion.
Oh, so you don't mind the methodology I'm using, but you don't like the conclusion I've made with it. Okay, got you.
I mean, isn't that your position against mine?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying that
you're altruistic.
I'm generous and nice. I thank you, but I don't know what that means. Like, I'm so bewildered. Look, if I'm saying that, when asking you to show that your God exists, using induction or otherwise, you can't seem to demonstrate to me that actually exists. That's my position.
But you're the one out of the two of us that's certain of whether something does or does not exist.
I'd say I'm pretty certain. Yeah, I believe that there is no God. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't prove or set a specific random set of features that would align with that conclusion, can you?
Well, I would sort of ask you, are you certain that God exists?
Yes.
I'm not certain of anything. I've already
You're not
told you
certain of
this
anything?
on multiple occasions. I'm not certain of
Okay.
anything.
So you're not a theist? You don't believe a God exists?
My beliefs are not certainty.
So you believe things that you have no certainty of?
I believe that I would fall off of a cliff if I took a wrong step, but I'm not certain of it. It's possible a draft of wind would blow me back up. It's possible I have a parachute.
Do you think that if you insist God exists with more conviction than you actually have, that God will be rewarded, will reward you?
No. Well, sorry.
I don't know who that was even to.
It was you. To you.
I'm not asserting anything.
I'm just
I think
wondering.
it boils down to actions speak louder than words, right?
I mean, that is true. I don't know what boils down to that, but my assertion is that
is it a psychotic episode or a psychological episode that something happened that is beyond your means?
Well, I don't know how you would go through life believing things that you're not certain of, like, oh, I can't be certain. No, I'm not saying absolute certainty. I'm saying you have a reasonable justification for things is certainty, right? Like I have a reasonable justification.
Science is based on uncertainty. What are you talking about?
Okay. Mark, what about our moral compass? Where do we where as a society have we defined the moral compass of good and evil? You know, sociopaths and empaths, you know, this kind of thing, right?
Well, morality's got a very specific definition. It's the code of conduct that all reasonable people would agree on. So I'm not sure psychopaths or sociopaths would fall under that. I don't think they're actually being reasonable. But that aside, I am a meta-ethical relativist, which means that I think that humanity in general shares goals with each other. We all have a goal. Generally, people will want a safe life. They will want food. They will want water. They will want shelter. They will want a sense of community. And I think that those needs form a basis for morality. So I consider morality to be anything that gets you towards that goal, and anything that moves you away from it is immoral. So yeah, go ahead.
The interplay between wolves could substitute and be completely like relevant to society. Is that where we're going here?
That's a question that's often brought up and I've debated. Do animals have morality? And they certainly do have a proto-morality, right? They have things that they punish each other for. I bring up the example of capuchin monkeys, which seem to have a punishment for lying or pretending there's a threat from a predator there in order to steal food. They'll be punished by the society for that. But I don't think it's a code of conduct. I don't think it rises to the level of morality where
Why
we say,
not?
Well, because they don't basically put it down as what you ought to do or ought not to do. They just react emotionally to something.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, you know, we're on the opposite spectrum, obviously, of the spiritual aspect. But I agree with that because when you see those videos online of golden retrievers that raise lions in zoos, there's nothing moral there. It's just the lion cubs think that's their mama, right? So they grow up not wanting to kill the dog.
Well, what's the distinction that you're making that makes something moral and something not moral? If we're talking about self-sacrificing behavior,
I'm talking about human beings because with nature, as brutal as it is, there's a clear system we learn from through nature, and the whole argument as human beings, as conscious, you know, sentient beings, is what makes us different from just the nature around us. And I think that's exactly why we argue whether God is real or not, because we are so different from everything on this earth.
Well, I wouldn't say we're so different. I think we're just sort of specialized in a very selective way for our neurological features, our ability to, for instance, socio-technical skills, our ability to teach others of our species, technical skills like making things. You know, that's really different than anything else out there. But other animals do have things that they're better at than us. Like, for instance, chimpanzees have incredible short-term memory. Chimpanzees will beat humans on short-term memory any day of the week because that's what they use. But I think that humans in basically socially codifying things, like basically saying, hey, this is something that should apply across the board, instead of, say, a singular animal going, hey, I don't like you doing this, so I'm going to, maul you if you do it, kind of thing. I think humans are unique in that, applying morality not only to everybody around them, but also to themselves. So I think I do agree that something makes us special, but I don't think we're that special. We're still animals.
Morality is very pragmatic. There might be a substitute between short-term and long-term gain, but most immoral behavior, there is a pragmatic reason, aside from punishment,
absolutely,
why you would not do it. Aside from punishment from the law, I mean, there's a natural recourse.
I think you're right, Dustin. I think it's largely social cohesion. Like there is that what is going to get us to a socially cohesive way, and what will be in our best interests. And that's why I'm a humanist, because I care about human beings.
Did you just agree with me? Hold on. I'm like,
if I did, it was
sitting
accidental.
beside myself. You just agreed with me. There's no accident there. You just agreed with me.
In what way?
I gotta run, but I would like to ask Mark a question before I leave. I just heard something earlier. You had said that that everything you believe is not based on faith. But would you say that axioms are faith-based?
I don't think all presuppositions are faith-based. I don't think the presuppositions that my senses are true are faith-based, because there's definitely something there to base them on. It is not just I've got no evidence of my senses, right? There's definitely evidence there of my senses. If you stab me, I'm hurt, and I will feel that. I don't think it's sort of the same as saying, well, I'm going to take it with no evidence that this is true. I don't think that's on the same level. So no.
Wouldn't that evidence be a justification?
It's a justification that they exist, but I don't think it's a justification that they describe reality necessarily, because we know that the senses can be wrong, right? Optical illusions exist, and your senses can be absolutely wrong. We know this. I don't think the presupposition is that I have senses. The presupposition is that the senses describe reality.
So would
Do
that
you think that
be unjustified?
I think that it is, because I don't have any other senses. I think so. So you may not say it's a presupposition. You may say that, hey, it's a properly basic belief. I'm not sure I get on board with that, but maybe it is a properly basic belief, because nobody has to explain to me what my senses are, how they operate. Maybe it is, things like the laws of logic. No one has to explain to a baby how, that jangly thing is just a thing above them and not other things which aren't as interesting. No one has to explain that to them. They just innately understand it. So that may be the case, sure.
Cool. I was just trying to connect the dots on Jeff's argument.
Fine.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Because I think
Mark,
the way the argument goes is that, and this is just last thing before I leave. Sorry, Dustin. But I think it was just to connect the dots. It was just that if all of your all of the things that you believe are based on these fundamental, properly basic beliefs or axioms, if they're unjustified, and if that means that they're faith-based, then everything you believe would be based on faith. I think that was the argument.
Well, I think they're justified. I do think there is justification for using my senses, and it may be a pragmatic justification too. You may be right about that there is no, I don't really have any choice. I don't have any other senses in which to engage. I don't have any other mind in which to engage. So it may be based upon that, sure. But that's really interesting, Alex. And yeah, I get what you're saying. I think that faith, where you have sort of nothing to justify it, and you say, well, I'm going to believe it just based upon that I nothing but faith. I don't see that on the same level as sort of believing my senses, which I can directly experience.
Cool. Thanks for that. I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you, Jeff, for being my partner. Thank you, Sarah, for having me.
Yeah,
Mark, Corinth, thank you for doing this.
Thanks, Alex. Take care.
I made you that offer already, Corinth. And Mark, if you ever want to do anything, Discord, all social media is at Wi-Fi Gospel if you ever want to do anything.
Yeah, sure.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
It was nice to meet you, Alex.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate you.
Sorry you had to carry me, man. I did warn him philosophy is not my strong suit.
Just a question
There's that
to Mark
beautiful
and
face.
Corinth.
Philosophy is not his strong suit either, Jeff. Don't worry.
But yeah, a question to Mark and Corinth. Like, do you think that like people can get truth out of the Bible, like the same way as like people go to the movies and they find something that's inspiration from that, they find some sort of meaning to it? Do you think that people can find meaning and truth in the Bible?
Sure.
You go, Corinth. I've been talking a lot.
To some extent, probably. There's you probably shouldn't murder people. You should probably use some level of treating people as you should. You should love your neighbor to at least some extent. These are all things that seem to be true, or at least good, that people can derive from the Bible. That's not to say everyone who reads the Bible derives true things or good things. It's possible for some.
It depends what you mean by truth, really. When you say, can you get true things? Yeah, it's sort of, ancient Palestine exists, the Levant existed, Golgotha's a plate. There's certain truths in there that we know are true. If you're talking about moral truths or moral facts, I don't think there are moral facts. I don't think anything is a moral fact. But if you're saying, can you get a truth of is good for humanity to treat others as, you would like to be treated? Well, yeah, that's good for people. Sure. I don't see why it can't have really good lessons in it if that's what you mean. Sure.
Yeah, so then the question would be like what would be your issues with the Bible? Like, what would be the problems you'd find, having like a religion like Christianity?
There are a bunch of other claims you can derive from it that you can just take the good things from. You can take the idea that, hey, we should just go and hate gay people. You can take the idea that, hey, we should go and start beating people or limiting sexual promiscuity. You should take the idea that like women shouldn't have rights. These are all things that you can also derive from. I'm not saying everyone derives these principles, obviously, from this, but these are also some things that people do derive from it, and that would be a reason why people should maybe separate what they should take from it as good and limit what they do take from it.
Well, I think that's the variations of the views of humans around the world, right? Because for theft, for example, in a lot of states in the United States, you can steal up to a certain significant amount of USD, and there's no prosecution for it until you do so. Surpass that limit. And then in other, God bless you, Sarah. And then in other countries like, Saudi Arabia, you have jewelry shops open without any CCTV or security or doors, and people don't steal because they know the punishment is the hand you steal with is chopped off. And I think a lot of that is, derived from these religions and cultures, Corinth.
Yeah, but there's problems with that. Sorry,
allow me to interrupt. My apologies. Plumpy, I know you're trying to send Corinth to the back, but you can't send the original panelist to the back. So tag me in the chat and let me know if you want to send somebody else back. Trib1 coming up with the Big 10 says AI overview, blind faith versus faith. Faith is often based on evidence, reason, and experience, while blind faith is characterized by unquestioning belief, even in the absence of evidence or reason. Any thoughts to that, panel?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely definitions that I've heard, the Trib. Thank you. That blind faith is different, and yeah, I would probably agree. If your definition of faith is based upon evidence, reason, and justification, then sure. But I don't know why you're calling it faith and how it's different than just normal epistemic belief in that regard.
Oh, all faith must be blind. I dig it.
Fair enough. And Jim D, I'm sorry, I didn't miss you. I just didn't want to interrupt for the one super chat. Coming with the big 2 saying belief in God equals living in reality.
Convincing platitude.
Well, I'm unconvinced of that. I really am. I think that, things that can be demonstrated. Well, I am convinced that I'm unconvinced. Yes, I think I can.
I don't know if I put on my sarcasm thick enough.
My confusion is really with the Western world.
Let me actually, because Dustin wants to go ahead and leave, and I have like 20 more people backstage. So, Dustin, you want to make your exit statement?
So, it's just interesting to me that there's so much energy placed into the idea that science has replaced God, right? You can't deny that God is a part of the human psyche. It has been there for a very long time. I'd argue longer than science has been. And the idea that science hasn't supplanted God as a religion, it just kind of lends the idea that you're putting a lot of faith in something that you can't prove, right? So that's just my 2 cents on the.
I like it.
That's just my 2 cents.
I like it.
I can address that though. Sort of the idea that science replaces God, that isn't true. No one's worshipping science. No one's actually saying this.
They did call science fake.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think that it seems to be the best methodology.
Trust the science, bro.
Oh, I don't worship science, and it does tell us things that are not great about ourselves and about the world around us, but it seems to reveal what is actually true, which is the reason we have medicine and virology and all of these things. It seems to be the best for telling us about the natural world around us. And I'll concede it doesn't seem to have a method for finding supernatural or transcendent things, but that's not what it's designed for. So you can be a complete theist.
You adopt the concepts that were once associated with God. You say that because I can explain them, that I am now greater than those concepts.
Yeah,
and you place yourself. Anyway, I think that this argument is sound. I've got to go because I will catch you guys later. Much love. Thank you for having me on, Sarah.
Yeah, no problem.
Before Dustin spoke,
Christianity, well, not just Christianity, religion takes things like morals and then lays claim to it.
And this is so crazy because before Dustin spoke, this is exactly the point I was going to make, and you guys led into it. And that's why I think believing everything is a coincidence is really ignorance. For me, the biggest thing, like Dustin just said, and Mark, to your point too, and to Joe's point, is really, I think there's because, as someone who is blessed enough to be born and raised in the Western world, I appreciate and respect everything the Western world has given to the humans on Earth. But the reality is, I think there's a biased perspective in the Western world. Like with all parts of the world, people who have a perspective of God in the Western world, due to mostly Christianity and their upbringing, have these understandings of it. But when you say science and God have to be so contradictory, I think that's only Western theology. When you go to other parts of the world and other religions, they use science as a direct evidence of the magnificence of a creative intelligence. And so I observe all of that, and maybe it's a curse or a blessing, I don't know, but I just see it all, and I refuse to criticize any. I think it's all rivers leading to the same ocean, ultimately.
Well, I think that sort of I don't know. I didn't really say they were contradictory. I'm just saying that science can't really investigate God, and you can come to the conclusion that all of this leads to a God, but I don't think that's a scientific claim. I don't think you can actually make any kind of statement that is scientific that would say that a God is responsible for this. And feel free to prove me wrong. Show me the scientific paper that demonstrates a God, because I don't think it's out there. And if it is, I would like to read it and see how they experimented
Buddhism and
found a
Sikhism
God.
and Hinduism, they all state that the evidence of God is the very existence you experience.
No, and that's fine, but they're not science.
I got 2 arguments for you. The odds of life. I think I heard you say earlier that for sure there's life in other places. Did I hear you right? Maybe I should just ask you. Do you think it's likely?
I think it's likely, sure.
That there is life in other places?
Sure.
That's a good point. If there is intelligent life out there in space, does that prove or disprove the existence of God? That's not us,
God.
Okay,
Not
Alex.
directly, I don't think. It would probably disprove some gods.
I was just
but
going
wouldn't
with it was
disprove God categorically.
It certainly would the Christian God, right? Because you have, Jesus, unless they have their own version of Jesus that's been sent to save them as well. I think that Christianity would take a really hard
But maybe
hit
that
from it.
species never
I
had
might make an argument that that's even likely.
Thanks.
I was
Theo.
just
that
going
species
with-
never. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. It's still, even then, you'd have to have the only perfect person is Jesus and these aliens. So I don't know.
Well, I think the main point is that it's like, for example, like typical thing of like falling into scientific method and all that is that the actual thing being tested has to be falsifiable. So an example of this would be like, could there exist an aliens that like are so technologically advanced that we can't even detect them? Like, that claim is unfalsifiable because they're so sophisticated we'll never be able to detect them.
Anything's
So it's the same
possible.
thing where this is where they kind of say where science and religion is opposed, because like, God, by definition, God is like, you're not able to test for God, all this kind of shit. But like, I think another key point to touch on as well, because sorry, my mind's all over the place, like, was this whole thing of like dogma. There is dogma in science, but it, like, science itself is not a religion. Do you know what I mean? So when Fauci got on an interview and said, I am the science is settled, all the shit, that's literally contrary to science. Science is like developing, it's constantly being developed. So to say it's all settled and it's like the knowledge is static, all this kind of shit. Knowledge is dynamic. It's constantly getting added to, tweaked, all this kind of shit as we experience and we discover more, all this kind of thing. So I think that's kind of the main danger with religion, especially fundamentalist religion, is that you can, on faith, take a stance that goes against all of your country's laws. Like fundamental Islam, for example, will on faith ignore they will override free speech in the Constitution. Purely because it's like, no, that's blasphemy to God to dare question Allah or whatever the fuck. Do you know what I mean? So like, that's when you get into dangerous, but that's just dogma in general. That's not necessarily religion.
For
Because
sure.
like,
But I mean, they
gave the
threw
example,
Galileo.
like,
Wasn't it
truth is
Galileo
left in
they
the
threw in jail for saying the sun was the center of our solar system? Was it
Yeah,
Galileo or Aristotle?
it was home confinement, I think.
Yeah, they
For the rest of
told him
his
he was
life.
wrong and they jailed him,
For the
right? And
rest
then
of his
years
life.
later, after his death, they determined he was correct. So you're right. Science does update its information constantly, you know, and isn't that the whole point of science, though? It's to be a student of the existence we experience.
Can you imagine being the guy who had to clean that guy's place out?
I presume people could enter it.
The whole
but,
world
like,
was convinced he was cursed by God himself, banished
instance, at
by the
one
Pope
point-
to his own home.
At one point, they thought they had physics all sorted out. We had everything understood. There was just a few little things that we had to sort out, and then somebody came up with quantum physics. You know, like, and then suddenly we realized that everything we have to take
Was it a
another run at
woman?
it. So-
That was my second proof
No,
of God.
no,
The first one, if I could, the first proof was I was just trying to say the likelihood, and it got strayed. It's unlogical, unlikely that we're this lucky, that we're that close to the sun. And if there is other life, it hasn't made it here, and all of those things. And the second argument was, we're cavemen. We're pretty stupid. We were pretty sure Einstein had the speed of light was the fastest you can go. This thing is over there. This thing is over there. Now we're finding out through a quantum entanglement that things are connected. What you do to this thing happens to another thing. So they're connected, even though you can't see it, meaning we're not so fucking bright. Meaning that our rules of science that brought you to your conclusions are just a monkey trying to explain quantum physics. You cannot be, that fucking certain.
Yeah,
Go
but the
back.
problem is that religion is even
Joe.
more
That's a point.
Hang on.
I say we
Sorry,
need
go
a-
ahead, Leo. You haven't talked.
Brother
at all,
Joe needs
so
$1 more
please.
to send all 3 of his kids to school. We can dig down deep and get those pennies out of those loafers.
Speaking of sending more dollars, K2 Keep On Trucking came into the Big Ten, says, I'll show my support to the show and send in a super chat and say, these women minivan drivers makes me want to start smoking. Jesus, take the wheel. Shout out to minivan
You should.
driving
It'll make you look
mamas.
cooler.
Pretty much. So
No,
the first
I
part
just
that was
wanted-
Go, Leo. Sorry.
I just wanted to outline that. I mean, if you want to use quantum mechanics to argue for God's existence, you can do that. But quantum entanglement does not violate the speed of light. And while I have the floor, I'd like to comment on the science is always changing. That is true to an extent, but we can't deny the fact that science still establishes things that aren't going to change. This phone is made of atoms. That is going to be true in 1,000 years from now. Now, we might advance our understanding of atoms and how they behave and how they interact with each other. But in 1,000 years, in 1,000,000 years, it will still be true that this phone is made of atoms. So while science does change, we can still establish truths about reality using science.
I think the teleological argument that you had, sort of, hey, we're a certain distance from the sun. Well, we're actually in the outer edge of the Goldilocks zone. We could actually be in a better
We're about in the
position. So, Well,
what about
still
it?
Both Mars and Venus sit within the circumstellar habitable zone of the sun. You could put Earth where Venus is, and life, maybe not us specifically, but life would continue on this planet. There'd be all water would be liquid, but life would still continue to exist. You could put Earth where Mars is, and life would continue to exist. It'd probably be a bit colder, but life would continue to exist.
If that were logical, we'd have found life on these other planets, moon, and all of that shit, right?
No,
but there's a variety of reasons why we haven't found. Do you know what the temperature is on the surface of Venus? 700 degrees Fahrenheit.
I thought he said Venus.
Yeah.
On the
Mars
Venus?
practically doesn't have an atmosphere, so that's also.
And I'm not sure, but if you're saying life is so persistent that something other than us would form if the planet would move, it's logical that we find life in our solar system, and most scientists agree.
In our solar system.
Yes, and most scientists agree that by now life should be abundant if all we need are the conditions that we have.
I don't know any scientists saying that.
Yeah,
check the calculations that they've done to determine whether they think it's life out there. The old calculation was simply based on sun, water, and the things that we knew at the time.
All
and
those
it was
calculations are
and it
based on
was huge that
subjective
there was life. Now we found out that there can be life under the ocean living off of gas and shit like that. So they had to expand the calculations. The current belief is that life should be abundant and it should have found its way here by now.
No, that's not.
And I wasn't trying to say that quantum entanglement had anything to do with the speed of light. You must have missed my shit. All I meant was that we had limited knowledge thinking speed of light, and now we know other things. So the knowledge that you're using now could be quite limited. If the quantum is just the beginning of a thing, then you're ape trying to describe how an automobile works. There's no two ways around it.
I believe
Yes, it
Corinne
could be.
wants to make his exit. If we could give him the space to go ahead and clear out.
That was fun. Mark, thanks for teaming up with me. That was really good.
Pleasure.
Jeff, thanks for filling in. No, it was really last minute. Love you, dude.
Thank you.
Everyone else, I don't know. Any of you?
Oh shit!
Thank
You
you.
guys die in a hurry. That's a damn lie from Ramen Noodle Boy.
I do actually
Savage.
want to give a big shout out to Jeff because the person who was originally going to be in that role backed out a semi last minute. No harm, no foul, but Jeff was pretty quick when I asked and reached out and said, "Hey, would you want to fill in?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, I got it." So that spared me a sanity level, but it also saved the debate as well and allowed it to continue.
Thank you, Jeff.
So, round of applause for you, Jeff.
And
made
you
it
were
into that.
sincere. Both of you last two remaining were the only two sincere panelists up there. Thank you, Jeff and Mark.
Oh, I think Corinth was sincere.
Nonsense.
I was also
Sincerity.
impressed by his understanding of philosophy. That impressed me.
Yeah, same
quite a
here,
bit.
actually.
I was-
He probably knows more about
I-
philosophy than I do.
He probably knows more about philosophy than I do. But it's just cool to see people. I hear him start talking, and he started talking about modality and modal logic, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, no, he's.
So I have a question for the atheist brother, Mr. Mark.
Why is your
Do you
gain so fucking high?
is it bad?
It's
I can
bad.
turn it down. Is it bad, sir?
About 30%.
Or do you want to fix it? I can do either.
Those better.
Yeah,
Go
it
ahead.
is way up.
She's
I think you sound a
already
little
got
better
your
now.
balls in her hands. Just let her rock the mic.
So, Mr. Mark, do you believe that there is no God?
I believe there is no God. Yes.
All right. Would you say that the belief itself is in the realm of evidence or tangible, or would it be in the
No.
realm of fiction? So belief is fiction.
Belief is epistemology. It's basically the epistemology is about knowledge and belief. So that's saying, well, I believe it, therefore it's true. Belief is never evidence for something.
Okay, so is your belief fiction?
Is my belief? No, my belief is real.
It's
I really
possible
believe
fiction.
there is no
It's a-
God. Sorry?
So your belief is evidence, or it's tangible?
No. I have evidence upon which I base my very real belief.
So is it fiction?
Is the evidence fiction? No.
But your belief is fiction, correct?
What do you mean is my belief fiction? Do you think
It's not real,
Do you
it's
think,
tangible.
Do you think I'm lying that I believe in this thing?
I believe you believe that. I believe you believe that there is no God. But your belief,
right. So how is it fiction that when the proposition, I believe there is no God, is true, correct?
You may believe that, but I don't know whether it's true or not.
That is true.
There's no way for me to know.
And while you two are fooling around, I just want to send a big shout out. We just got a big Crucible raid coming in, so the numbers are spiking up already. Shout out to all of the Crucible crew. Rachel Wilson, I see you in chat. Mr. Enning, I'm just going to say Mr. E. I can never say it. And thank you to Andrew Wilson. I appreciate you all. I hope your debate went well. Sorry, my apologies. Go ahead.
That's okay. I think the confusion here is you're saying, hey, is that belief that you have a real thing, right? Is it a real thing out there in the world? And no belief ever is. A belief is a mental state of thinking something is true. So you've got to be very careful because you're trying to
Jeff, don't leave yet.
Whether the belief.
No.
Hang on. Just brick. You're trying to conflate that the belief not being a real thing means that if it is true that I believe it, it doesn't mean that it's true that a God exists. And you're trying to conflate the two.
No, I'm not conflating. I'm actually making I'm not conflating. I'm actually making a point. My point is this, and if you want to hear my point, I can actually make the point. But I want to ask Jeff a question as well. Actually, I got 3 for him. When you say that you believe there is no God, you cannot possibly say that as knowledge.
I don't. It's a belief.
You said it was a belief.
Right.
Based upon evidence.
Therefore, you cannot be asked. Therefore, you cannot be asking someone else for knowledge.
Okay, so the reason why is because I believe it based upon evidence, so it's justified. There is no way that I can check it further than that to see whether it is true or not. It's unfalsifiable.
So the belief exists for you and you alone.
What do you mean it exists for me and me alone?
The same as any
Who
knowledge
else would have my belief? Who else would have my mental state?
Exactly. That's exactly my point. So when you go asking another man for a belief to prove his belief, right? Now you have operated upon.
Well, no, Rick.
Where did their belief originate, Rick?
Hang on. If they would have knowledge of God, if they do have knowledge that a God exists, do you have knowledge that a God exists?
Of course not.
Okay, so you're agnostic.
No, but I have the historic evidence of societies and civilizations throughout time that existed far before any languages that spoke English, or therefore even Christianity, the Judeo-Abrahamic religions, that have had, a vehement faith in some kind of creator. Whether even you go back to like the age of Moloch, when people were sacrificing their youngest children during struggles.
That might be bad evidence.
There's been people who have believed in this for a long time. So how do we just refute that and ignore it?
That may be bad evidence. They didn't know any better. People, of course, are going to believe crazy shit. The younger or older.
Well, it's also an appeal to popularity.
It may be bad evidence as well.
It's also an appeal to popularity. You're basically saying, hey, there was a long line of people who all believed it. It's a common belief. But before we came up with medicine, it was a common belief that, disease was caused by people sinning, for instance, or in some way transgressing a creator. And we know that that's not true. We now have germ theory of disease. So, the fact that people believed it, and a lot of people believed it, does not mean that it is true. That's an appeal to popularity.
Right. So even science, even all of what we believe about science can pretty much be chalked up just to a belief. When we talk about knowledge, right? Knowledge is ultimately unattainable, except for through, and this is the part where I wanted to go to Jeff. Jeff, is experience the best teacher?
Well, I just want to, sorry, Jeff, just before you go, I just want to address that because you're sort of saying, hey, science only has belief as well in popularity. Like, I don't see how the demonstration.
No, it's not through popularity, it's through your own mind. You cannot have science without a mind. You just can't have it.
He's saying it's belief because you can't be 100% certain. Therefore, it's belief.
Hold on, that's not true. Our minds are able to document science, but science in itself is a definition of the universe we experience. Like Brother Leo was saying earlier, once we've defined what atoms are, you cannot refute the existence of atoms.
No, Mark actually explained this earlier, is that it's just the words that we put it together and then we use it as a descriptor. Mark actually explained this earlier. And that's why I kept saying in the chat that Mark's actually making an argument for God, that it's a belief, right? Anyway, so I did want to get to Jeff.
I'm really not. I don't think you understand my position. That those
I do.
atoms
I
do
understand that
exist.
you're an atheist. You're just confused. But I wanted to get to Jeff.
Yeah, so those atoms do exist. They are there. Just because we say, hey, these things have properties in common and we
believe that?
label those properties.
Yeah, can
doesn't-
you measure
yes, I
where
believe
those
that.
atoms
Thank
are?
you.
Can you nail them down?
Can I
Can
nail
you
an
nail
atom
those
down?
atoms down?
Everything
and
that we
define where they
know
are?
is a belief, right?
I
You know
don't-
you cannot, right? So maybe they are not there.
I was thinking that the
Certainly
whole
not
time,
as
Flo.
you're
Like
saying.
after the fact, we still believe it, even though we know it.
Right. A belief
Heisenberg
Yeah,
uncertainty.
that is correct.
Yeah, even if we claim
Knowledge
it,
is a
you know,
subset of
it's still a
belief.
belief.
So
Yes,
anything
correct.
that you know, you must first believe in order to know it. Belief is a condition for knowledge. Justification, belief, justification, and truth are typically
Yeah,
given
and by the way,
in the
knowledge also
standard
requires
tripartite
justification,
analysis.
correct? Knowledge
That's what I said.
requires
That's what I,
justification.
that's
So
what I said.
in that case,
it requires belief,
justification
it requires
comes from the mind.
justification, and it requires truth in the traditional tripartite analysis, which is setting
Justification
aside
has a
deathier
mind.
cases for the sake of simplicity.
But I would like to get to Jeff. Is
Can we get this
experience
man a
the best
pipe?
teacher?
Leo needs a pipe.
He does.
I have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, get that wooden pipe out,
Not
brother
that
Leo.
kind of
Get
pipe,
that wooden
Leo.
pipe
Nice.
out.
That kind of pipe,
Yes.
Leo.
Nice. Yes, sir.
Oh hell yeah!
So is experience the best teacher, Jeff?
It'll do.
Not always.
It is. And then I'm sorry.
You said no.
Not always. No.
Not okay. I mean, besides, like, if we as believers said God, then God would be the best teacher. But short of that, experience. I mean,
It'll
like
do.
in the logical fashion, experience. I guess because even logic has its own fallacies.
It'll do. Please continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
All knowledge based on experience?
No.
I don't.
Well, that's the point I was making earlier. Like when you grow up as a Christian, a Muslim, whatever, in an atheist household, you grow up with the belief. You grow up with the belief and the faith that your parents or your family know the world better than you do, right? And a lot of us, once we get older, we realize that may not be true. So we try to get onto our own path and journey to find the truth. But like that's kind of what I was saying earlier, that so much of human civilization has dictated this belief or knowledge of a creator that it still stands true to this day. Like, you know, whether it's true or not, so many people believe it to be true is what I'm trying to say.
Hey,
Well,
look,
that doesn't answer the
two questions
I mean,
already.
everybody
You said you
could be
don't
wrong.
No, hold on. It doesn't even
I
touch
accept that
the
answer. It's okay
Right.
to say I don't know. It's okay.
No, no,
Okay, so
I don't like
Brick-
the
Brick is-
sticky
I
way
don't
you're using the
understand
word
Brick's
knowledge.
thing.
You're trying to make a
understand.
semantic
One more.
point, in biblical argument, and this kind of greasy. I don't like. Try it again.
Yeah.
I've got one more. Is revelation enough for experience, Jeff?
Enough
They're
for
different fucking things.
Is it enough to say I have an experience now?
No.
No.
It's not an experience. It's a revelation. They're different things entirely.
Are you
Sorry, I
saying
know
can
that was at
revelation
Jeff, but-
replace experience?
No, can a revelation be enough to say that was an experience?
No.
No. Okay, then I guess that John from the Isle of Patmos did not have an experience.
And a dream,
No,
maybe.
he had an experience, but
Oh.
what we're questioning is whether it was a revelation.
I'm asking these questions because a lot of people don't really get down to the nitty gritty of these
I don't think
ideological
you get down
facts.
to the nitty gritty.
No, I'm saying that what
But
you
God
are, you
bless you
guys
for
are
trying.
claiming, what you guys are claiming to be knowledge, you can't possibly claim to know.
Disagrees with you, bro. I don't know. What
You
that-
can't possibly claim to know what we know.
Hey, look, I'm just asking questions.
No, you're not. You're making assertions.
No, bro,
yeah.
I literally have them written down right here. Okay,
You literally just made an assertion
And
and you
did
said
with
you're
an
asking
assertion.
questions.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
And-
I
and
did.
when we
I did.
disagree
I
with
just
premises,
made an
whatever
assertion.
you're
I got
running,
6
Brick,
questions
Brick,
though. But
Brick,
all of
just
the questions.
when we
all-
disagree with the premises in your sort of whatever script you're running there, you're sort of like, oh, well, we then
question?
continue like we
Right,
agreed
right.
to it.
Right.
You disagree
didn't
with
prove
a question.
anything to us because we didn't keep up with you, is what he's saying.
No, but when we don't give you the answer that you're looking for. Like when you say, oh, experience is the best way to get knowledge. No, sometimes not. If I fall off a cliff and die, it's not the best way to get knowledge about gravity.
Right. No, that's very true. Yeah, Mark, the way I think of it,
is that
this might
you're
be a
not
silly-
willing to say I don't know.
Okay, Brick. Okay, Brick.
I
Okay,
heard
Brick.
Mark
say
say that.
The way I think
Didn't
I think
Mark
of it
say
like
that when
video
he was
game-
asked?
Yeah, he
I
said it
don't
at least
know a
3
lot of
times tonight.
things.
No, you're afraid of it. You said I don't know, but then you push back on the position as if it's a piece of knowledge that you can attain. You can't attain this knowledge. It's not for you. It's not for me. It's not for anybody. There are pieces of knowledge that you
Where
will
did you get that
never
knowledge,
have.
Derek? Where'd you get that knowledge?
What, that knowledge right there? Oh, that's
Can you give me a first source? I'd like a first source, please. So you don't make knowledge through experience by knowing that other people can't know it.
It is
you already know. I'm sorry, that's not going
to by the best teacher. Now, if you don't want to believe it, that's cool. That's cool. I'm only asking questions that people are afraid to ask.
Brick, do thoughts exist?
There's a reason why they're afraid to ask it, mate. Because
Well, I actually respect that sentiment that humans may be limited to
wanna hear
that
him
ultimate
answer
knowledge
my
until
question.
after we die, whether it's
Yeah, I
real or not,
want to hear
right?
Flo's
Like,
question too.
yeah,
I
go ahead,
think
Flo.
that's-
Go ahead.
Do thoughts exist, Brick?
You already know the answer to that.
I want to hear you say it for people, though, so that they know who they're talking to.
That's my point. Why ask the question?
To demonstrate
Well,
to
what's
the
the outcome?
audience who you are and what you think.
They already
do
know
thoughts
who I
exist.
am. I've been up here on Sarah's panel. In fact,
I don't
I've
know
been
who
up
you
up here
are.
on
Wait a sec, Brick. You just tore into you just tore into to
why I didn't
Mark,
come.
and now you're dodging the question.
I don't
And you're
know.
saying,
I'm
oh, people are just afraid to ask the questions. Answer Flo's question. Do thoughts exist?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a simple question.
It is.
Do thoughts exist?
Question.
I don't believe so.
Oh,
So I would say no.
thoughts don't
Okay.
exist. We have
say
this
no.
conversation.
There it is. There
Right.
it is.
So I can't
It's
tell you
kind
what
of
the
like peeing on a wall.
Maybe for Brick, because it does sound like he doesn't fucking think, so he wouldn't have thoughts as he
What,
thinks.
gentlemen, one at a time. Brick,
Brick,
make your
what do
claim there, buddy.
What do you mean thoughts do not exist, Brick?
They're not real. They're not tangible. You can't hold them in your hands.
Oh, I dig that in that sense. I'm with you. Yeah.
It just leads to the simulation theory. Like if I'm playing a video game, it's not real, but the concept, like what fascinates me more than anything is, Mark, you're the greatest non-NPC character in a video game, right? Because you're willing to question everything that most people are willing to just believe. So it's ultimately the creator of this video game is probably far more fascinated with individuals like Mr. Mark Reed, who actually question things and are willing to, question what the truth may be instead of just falling in line, because that's what the older people before him said. So I try to have an open mind when it comes to this debate. I don't just pick a side and become loyal to a fault.
Well, I don't have a problem with anybody believing in a God. I don't have an issue at all. Like they can believe whatever they want because I can't prove the God doesn't exist. So I can't, I don't dislike that. What I have a problem with is some of the negative effects of those religions have. And, you're fully entitled to your beliefs, but I believe there is no God. And so I think I'm entitled to mine as well. But thank you, Tomato. I really appreciate it.
Mark,
and I think, yeah. Sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's say I'm going to equate this life to a video game. If you're in a video game, can I call the creator of the video game God? Is that all right?
Well, it depends on their properties, right? Like possibly, yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
possibly.
if they're aware of everything, because even in a video game, I don't think the creator of a video game would be aware of everything that happens in that video game.
No, it'll do for
all
what I
locations.
want to do. I just want to move it to, is it possible that this world, if it is a simulation, then we can call whoever created it, we can consider him God in the same God terms we gave the first guy, if we can prove this is a simulation.
Sure, but I don't believe it's a simulation. I think that has
very good. That's an easier proof than to prove God. I think we could prove this is a simulation.
Really?
Yes. Everything we think seems to be untrue. It seems like, for instance, you once thought that when I hold up these cigars, I'm actually touching the box. Turns out that there's a magnetic field that would never allow me to touch this thing in reality. We thought we were sure, 100% unobjectionable fact that I'm holding this box.
Hell no.
Now we're not even touching it. We know we're not even touching this box.
How does that get you to a God or a simulation?
Well, the best way it turns out to find out a simulation is to zoom in on it. You zoom in on other simulations, they pixelate, the rules break down. Looks like when you zoom in on this world, it breaks down. You can't find that atom that you were so sure of. Heisenberg, on certainty principle, says the more you try to narrow it down, the less you'll find it.
No, that's not what it says.
Okay.
No.
The reason we can't make computer chips any smaller is because we can't determine what a damn atom's gonna be.
No, that's not right. We can't make them any smaller because we're limited by the size of electrons. That isn't true. And we can make quantum chips using quantum bits. So I don't, that's ridiculous.
Your quantum argument, when I'm talking about quantum computers, the reason we can't make regular chips for regular computers is because we can't nail down where the damn object is. The closer we try to nail it down, the more we know where it is not. It is not there.
No, it's just limited by the size of an electron. We can't make like computational pathways that are smaller than an electron because then what would hold the electrons?
Well, the holder is that part. That part is too small for the electron to travel through. You understand that, right? So there's two parts there that are working together.
Yeah, but I don't see how that makes us not able to do anything smaller because we don't understand where an electron is. That doesn't follow.
It's not the electron, it's the atom.
Well, we can define the position of atoms.
My point was that the rules break down. The rules change on a smaller level. Here, I'll give you another example. You take
that doesn't prove that it's a simulation. It just says that when you go further into a atom, that it goes into subparts from there. That's we haven't found anything that has an atomic level, but we think that the quanta is the smallest packet of information that you can have in the universe, like the quanta. But we're not 100% sure of that either because we haven't managed to break a quanta down. So
that's aside my point. My point was that what we think is solid reasoning here. If you do a 360 and turn around, I'm looking at your face again. We think that's 100% certain. The quantum rules don't follow these rules. That's why they want the grand unified field theory, right? To rationalize these.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Joe. I'm going to go out on a limb and just sort of say that you probably aren't an expert on quantum mechanics at the moment.
I'm not I wouldn't claim expert on anything, bro.
Hence, man's been asking in the chat how magnets work. He's getting mad.
Is that Tapioca Weasel? That's our magnet expert.
No, it's not.
Direct Tapioca Weasel on magnets. Yeah, Joe, I just don't see when you say, hey, because either way, right? Like, I feel like either way, if we find some quantitative packet, some smallest part of the universe and say, hey, that quanta is the smallest part, you'll go, oh, look, it's proof that it's simulation.
I'm not trying to prove the size. You're missing my argument. The rules break down. Can you talk about that?
Smaller and smaller and small. Well, the grand unifying theory is the one that we're looking for to assimilate them together, like
because they're different, right?
But you're assuming that doesn't exist, and I know. How do you know that doesn't exist?
I'm assuming what doesn't exist. I'm just saying the rules are different in conventional physics as opposed to quantum physics. Why are we wrestling about this?
No, if we can find a grand unifying theory, it will unify the two. We haven't.
Where is it? Where is
it?
Joe, he's saying that he believes we can find it. He's not saying that we have found it. He believes that we can.
All right.
And speaking of finding things, Joe, Nico Pluto coming with a big 2 says, Cruci blesses. Hello, weirdo. Thank you. Plumpy with the big 2. Stay wild out there, Brick. Plumpy again says, simp bucks. Thank you. Plumpy coming in is again saying, Brick, what's your favorite Skittle color?
He meant skin
I
color.
do not. I do not eat Skittles, but if I had to choose a favorite color, because my favorite color is green. Red's the best
skin color. Skittles.
Gay.
No, I don't eat Skittles.
Did you determine that?
Blasphemy.
Brock E. Shepard trying to utilize his membership to kick Dusty, but unfortunately it doesn't work like that. That's just your free ability to say something without you've already say something. You can't use it to kick anyone. Yeah. Chris Thompson in with the big. Okay, Chris Thompson in with the big 2 saying smartwatches have a processor in them. And last one, John Cassell with the big 10. How bad does this guy want to be Morpheus? And on that note,
I'm not
Mark,
sure if he's talking about Mark or Leo. Is that Mark or Leo?
I'm gonna assume it's me. I mean, I'm so bald. It's
Leo's got the chair
ridiculous.
though.
Hey, I'm bald.
He
Dude,
does,
Mark,
yeah.
I'm bald too, bro. Fuck him. Fuck him. I'm Professor X in this bitch. We're both bald brothers, bro.
Right
Put the
on,
hat
right
back
on.
on, Tomo.
Embrace it. Anyway,
And
I just
Mark,
want to give
you want to
a
make
sorry,
your
go ahead.
closing guy? No,
Yeah,
I
I
wanted
wanted
to
to give a big thank you to Jeff and Alex and God, I've forgotten his name now.
Corinth.
Corinth, yeah, absolutely cool. Was really, really fun. Thank you so much, Sarah, for hosting, and thanks everybody for watching. I really enjoyed it.
Good to see you.
Everybody, take care, be well, and yeah, I'll probably see you next time.
Good seeing you, Mark.
I don't mean to
Yeah,
cut
good to
you
see you,
off,
Leo.
Mark.
Much love, man.
Going to get some lunch, huh?
Hold on, Jeff wanted to say something. Go
sorry.
ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut off your ending. If I want to chat with you later, where can I find you?
I'm over at Mark Reed Atheism. I have in my video descriptions, I do have a Discord if you want to join that. But yeah, my link, I should be linked down the bottom, Sarah, is that right?
Yeah, and Jeff, I'll send you his Discord username so that you can reach out directly. That's how I talk to him. Mhm.
Oh yeah, sure, no problem at all. Anyway, take care, everybody, and I'll see you later.
Bye, Mark. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you.
Do you think he likes bags?
And a crafty something coming in with the big five says, if a tomato is a tomato, but it identifies as a potato in the simulation, do you believe the reality it's a tomato or the simulation it's a potato? Whether the letter be fine.
I believe if you cut it into strips and fry it, it's tasty either way.
How much wood
Fair
does
enough.
the woodchuck chuck if a
If a
woodchuck would?
woodchuck would. Fair enough. And Robert Demita with his membership, just to say something. I like you, Robert. I love it. And Chris Thompson in with the Big Ten saying January at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, have developed fiber optic technology capable of teleporting quantum information through the same lines that carry conventional data traffic.
I heard about that. It was a big deal.
Y'all are getting way too nerdy for my taste.
Right.
Yell more.
I'm sorry. Do I need to stop coming here?
I tried to ask Brick what his favorite skin color was, but he wouldn't answer me.
Oh,
he's a
and
racist.
Mark, I'm gonna assume if Mark you're still watching, I'm gonna assume maybe you want me to cut your stream off. I'll go ahead and do it just for safety purposes and stuff. If you're gonna leave and everything, so I'm gonna go ahead and remove it. Anybody that's watching over on Mark Reed's end, I'm at the Raging Tomato. You can find me here if you want to continue on with the party.
You're at the Gauntlet, ain't you?
Right now, it's still on the Raging Tomato. Okay. That's where we're at. So I'll go ahead and remove that. And I think I missed Alex. I think had his still going too. I think, yeah, Wi-Fi Gospel. If anybody's still watching on Wi-Fi Gospel, again, same story for you. All right, I'm going to remove you. Let's see what else is going.
Rocky, you've been welding in those things?
Jeff, you're still good. Caucasian, you're good. Okay. All right. Everybody's safe. All right. Back
Oh,
to
good.
you.
I was worried there for a second. Whew.
Wait, I think that
Well, as a Christian, I
the
believe
people who
you
believe
can
in
know
God
God.
outweigh the atheists now.
you don't even have to be a Christian. All cultures believed in some God until recently when they came up with the Big Bang Theory.
I'm
Which
not so
isn't
sure
that-
that's a great argument, though.
Who
just
came up
because
with
people
the
believe
Big,
in
Who
it.
came up with the Big Bang Theory?
That's a
The
good question,
Jesuits.
Jose.
The
It's a very
Jesuits.
good question. A Jesuit.
I guess an argument I have. I guess an argument I have, whether you believe in it or not,
don't
is
even
why
have to
are
be a-
so many wealthy people, so many wealthy accredited people in this world, still obsessed with the esoteric or the spiritual realm, right? Like, unless you don't believe in those things, you think it's all just humans
Well,
are
they-
incompetent and that can't be
Wealth
real.
and intelligence aren't necessarily intertwined.
Right, but I'm not
Magical
necessarily saying those people are smart. I'm saying why is it that all of these prominent people in the world have constantly, shown symbols or affiliation
Like who?
to symbols of esoteric and occult and spiritual knowledge?
Who?
What's more reasonable and
Are
logic?
we really going to go down that road? I mean,
No,
Jesus.
Damn it, Joe.
I don't really want to go down that road, but
What's
I'll
more
point out that
reasonable and
show successful people on both sides of that. So the implication that you're making is that unsuccessful people are the only ones that believe.
No, the implication I'm
I know
making
that
is
is not
how
what
many
you said,
atheists.
but it's sort of implied.
Right, but how many atheist fraternities and sororities or organizations like the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians have existed in comparison to religious,
Aren't
faithful,
all of them
spiritual,
atheists?
esoteric?
Aren't all
Well, that's
fraternities?
that's why I asked you guys. Like, why are these people so obsessed with those things if they're so
Aren't
smart and in
all
tune with the
fraternities?
What's more reasonable and logic? That there's a God who created everything, or
God
that
damn it, Rocky.
everything came from nothing?
Nobody believes everything came from nothing.
Oh, well, that's what you got to believe.
The Christians
gotta have us
Okay,
believe to
so
argue
it didn't
against
come
it.
from nothing, but it came from the aliens.
No, you need us to believe that so that you can argue against it, but that's not what anybody's proposing.
What's
Yeah,
the
I'm just
fallacy that's
proposing-
called
I'm just
moving goal,
proposing
like
why all
moving
these people-
goalpost?
Okay, you
I'm just
want
proposing
evidence
why all these
of God.
people that
Look at
are
the
influential believe in
flowers,
these things. That's all I'm
the
proposing.
trees, the
All right, Jack
beautiful
Talcott.
world we live in. Evidence of creation is all around you, and you.
Does that disprove the flying spaghetti monster, Rocky?
Yeah. No.
Why it gotta be God, right?
How to
something else.
To not believe in God, you have to have faith. You have to
You
have
gotta have
things.
faith.
Oh, man.
Are you calling on
Rocky's,
Great
Rocky's,
Limp Bizkit
Rocky's like that
poster?
drunk public defender that's going to get disbarred next week, and you happen to have him showing up for you for your case. You're just like waiting. You see the name on the paper, and you're thinking, "What is he going to look like? Who is he?" And then he walks in stumbling, and he reeks of alcohol.
Well, Joe asked a question. He said, if you have a thought, does it exist? Now, I believe it exists, but it's non-material. So
Where
humanists,
is it?
Materialists, they don't believe in anything unless it's
Where is it,
materialistic.
Rocky?
It's inside you.
If it exists, where is it?
Right, that's also a
That
very
straw
poor
man Rocky keeps
characterization of
beating up.
materialism.
It exists
Hey,
in your
Rocky.
mind.
Yeah,
So physically,
I can explain this, Joe. I can
exists
explain this. I know what
inside
you're.
your head.
Yeah, I can explain this, right? Like,
Okay.
does Harry Potter exist?
Yes, in that sense.
Yes.
Yes.
But Harry
what's
Potter's
the
not
list of
real,
Merlin?
correct?
Merlin. It's all
all
influence.
of them
Non-fiction
make
is
sense
stranger
in a
than
sense.
fiction. Merlin, the
Yes.
wizard, influence.
Yes. So
Harry
the
Potter.
whole thing of like when Brick said that thoughts don't exist, that was retarded because he said thoughts don't exist and they're not real. But
But
thoughts do
then he
exist,
cleaned it
they're
up.
just
He
not
said
real.
they don't
It's
have a material
context.
so and so. Under that
Yeah.
definition,
Yeah, so they're not real. They
It's
still
context.
exist.
No,
They're
no,
not
no.
real.
What does it mean?
Point
What's the
five.
difference between not existing and not being real?
They're not
When you see a
tangible.
tornado,
That's what,
Yes.
you see,
but I didn't
you
ask
see
if they were tangible.
Called a
you see the
language
effects
barrier.
of it. Okay,
No,
you
it's
see
not.
the effects of
Yes,
wind, right?
Maybe
You
for
don't
you,
see
Brick.
the wind. You see the
No,
wind
it's
blowing
for
shit
powdered,
around.
dusty flow because he didn't understand what I was saying. Now, if
You
it was the other
answered
way
my
around, if I claimed that what he was saying was not true,
I
then
asked
I would be
you-
the one who has the
I
language
asked
barrier.
you if
He
thoughts
has the
exist.
language barrier.
You chose to answer no once again.
I think he
Um,
was saying they
they-
exist, but not in a material form. And
Now
you
he's
guys are
trying. Now
saying
he's
if
trying
it
to
is not
backpedal off of it.
material.
He said that.
This isn't a new
They-
conversation with Brick. That's why he responded that
Okay.
way.
They,
He's
they
always
always
answered
try to
this
do that.
way. Now he's trying
No,
to
they
backpedal
Okay,
off it.
so the Holy Spirit of God, as a
Rocky,
believer,
if you're
I
about to,
believe
go, I'm
the
sorry.
Holy Spirit exists, but you can't see it, just like the wind.
How do you know, Rocky?
You can. I
But you
know
can
know it.
detect the wind through a variety of empirical methods.
I honestly thought my argument was better, Flo, and you were dissecting it pretty well. Like, why are
Which
people
one?
that are influential and prominent so obsessed with things when you would consider their education would deem they'd follow science over blind faith? Like, you know,
more education makes people more smart. I think that you start to have a loss of independent thinking at some point when you've become too educated.
well, you and I have had this conversation. Like, I think those people at the cream of the crop aren't like your typical religious Bible thumpers in the West that people have grown to criticize and not become so fond of. I think they're actually really creepy druids of some kind of scary movie cult you watch at night with your girlfriend or wife. You know what I mean?
Rocky calls them Jesuits. By the way, the Big Bang, Rocky, I'm sorry to say, came around in 1969. It was coined by a BBC
69 BBC. What are
radio.
you talking about here?
radio host. And by the way, in the 30s, they actually came up with the idea of the singularity.
Thank you,
So when you
Wikipedia.
say it was the Jesuits, bro, I'm over here laughing.
Talking about
Well, the original theory was proposed by a Jesuit priest by the name of George Lemaitre. so
you believe in
that's
space,
probably what he's
you believe we
referring
went
to.
the moon.
Big Bang.
This is all
coined.
This is all from the
I'm not referring to
ball.
the term. I'm referring to the
Spinning
theory
ball
the term was
theory
attached
of
to.
space
Well,
came
that
from
was actually that
Copernicus.
came around in the 30s.
Oh, Jesus, Rocky, shut up. Nobody cares.
It was actually in the 20s, and it was by George Lemaitre, who was
No,
a
he's
Jesuit
lying.
priest.
He's fucking lying. The Big Bang started with Copernicus.
Leo, I like you. We can get along.
It did not start with Copernicus. They didn't have the observational data that suggested the Big Bang to begin with. So I don't know how they would have ever arrived at that as a conclusion when they didn't have any data suggesting it. In fact, all the way up until about the 1920s, most cosmologists thought the universe was eternal and static.
Yeah.
Well,
And the original disruption came from general relativity because its exact solutions, the Friedman solutions to general relativity, tell us that space-time can't be static. It's either expanding or it's contracting.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, they really didn't explore these
Rocky,
things
Rocky,
until
did you even
the World War.
process what he just said? Did you? Even
It was actually the
process-
military-industrial complex that had them on this track.
There's no proof.
They were
that
paying for it.
We're traveling.
Oh
through
God.
space. There's no proof of movement.
This is, you know what this reminds me of, sir? It reminds me of Finding Nemo when the seagulls are like, mine.
Mine. And speaking of mine, this one's not mine. This one's Flow State. Plumpy's over there simping with the big two. Simp bucks. Excuse me. And curious. And curious contrarian with the big two. Big Bang is pseudo-religious. And Chris
Well, that's
Thompson.
just one part of a scientific theory. That's all.
Okay. And Chris Thompson in with a big two says Miller Lite, does it taste great or less filling?
Light beer is
It's
gross.
less filling. It's less filling. It tastes all right.
Far less.
Grow a pair of balls and drink something dark like a real man.
Beer makes you pee too much. I'm all about that Glenlivet or like Tito's, you know, that good stuff.
Grow some real balls.
Tito's is good. I like Tito's. I can do some Tito's.
And while we're on the concept of super chats, you are not meeting your goal very quickly tonight, chat. You're failing, and I am very, very, very tired. So if you want the show to keep going, you know what to do, because I'll just end this shit and go to bed. I've had a long day.
She will.
If you don't mind.
In a heartbeat. And Jeff, I did want to say I recognize that you said I don't know. I want to point that out. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I asked your the questions, you did say that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, like if I don't know the answer, I'm not gonna,
Yep.
Is
Exactly.
there truth? Is truth relative or is truth? Can you
It
find?
depends on what concept of truth you're
Yeah,
referring
you
to.
can
There's
determine it. You
objective
can
truth,
determine it.
There's
Oh, sorry.
subjective truth. There's a variety. Like truth
There's-
is not
there's no
truth
such-
is not a univocal term where there's one concept and that one concept is truth. There's different kinds of truth.
I was going to say in layman's terms, you can determine it. Which is, I'm sorry, like not to offend you. You're a very smart guy, obviously. I was going to say in layman's terms, it's just like through pure analysis and basic trial and error evidence, we can prove what is true or not. Rocky.
This has to objectively be a cup, or it's not.
Yeah, but
That
can
is
you
objectively true? Like there,
prove something you
it's not
can't
just my
see?
PPs about it, right?
The truth is the quality
Okay,
of,
do
of
we
the
have
statement.
evidence of things not seen? Is there evidence of things we can't see? Like becoming a Christian and believing the Bible and
Rocky,
is
can you
there
engage with
evidence-
existing conversations, or do you just have to
evidence
barge
that makes
in
you
like
a
the
better
fucking Kool-Aid
person?
man with whatever you were
You-
thinking?
Is there evidence that makes you a better person if you follow the scriptures? Is that
Yeah,
evidence?
Of course.
No.
Yeah, it's evidence
No.
that people that
No.
follow the scriptures are
You
better
follow the
people.
scriptures and you're a worse person.
And
you
it can
demonstrate-
I would say
change
that
your
the,
heart,
I would say that the that
change
following
you
the
from a
scriptures.
drug addict.
Okay, Rocky, are you having a conversation, or are you just fucking doing a TED talk?
Well, you don't let me finish shit.
I think
Because you're
me and
never
Powder- I
finished.
think me and Powder need to go
what
at
she
it. Me and Powder
Oh
need to go.
my God.
I don't even remember what I was talking about.
Rocky, it's ironic because I agree with you, dude, but it's just
Well, he was asking if it was evidence.
You're making the
Oh,
argument
hell.
terribly.
cheers.
The Bible
Yeah, no. What Rocky's doing is a perfect example of
So
why
wait.
it's dangerous to give into a dogmatic belief. Because basically what Rocky's doing is he's overriding all rational faculty and just saying a statement in his feelings, all this kind of shit, and then just taking that as truth.
You see how he's getting angry?
Well, I got two fresh
believe
arguments to stop
God
this
of the
looping.
Bible is logical and reasonable. It's a logical and reasonable belief to believe in God.
Do you know
Yeah,
what
it is
logic
oh,
is,
sorry.
Rocky? I mean,
I just wanted to say to Rocky, it is entirely logical, reasonable, and rational to believe in a God. I just think the people who do are wrong. That's it.
Yeah, and that's fine. And those
Okay,
those of us that
so-
think you're wrong, I think we should all have the equal respect for each other, because at the end of the day, none of us know what's going to happen after we die. We just don't. We have ideas, we have theories. Until it's figured out, I think this debate's going to be ongoing, respectfully.
Okay, so if God had the power of miracles, could he use that so that you actually know something, first of all? And secondly, for all the atheists that always try and argue like they have an established position and the Christians or whoever are operating on mere faith and have to defend their position, the actual experts will on occasion, because they fluctuate, say that quantum theory isn't proven as of yet. So it's not like they have a strong foundation for their arguments. It's really a
scientific
faith-based
theories are never
argument.
proven, because proven
Oh, they
to
can be.
prove things. Well, they can't be.
It would no longer be called a theory.
Requires deductive argumentation that is usually relegated to the logic and mathematics. What science does
So
is
that's
consistently
pure
provide
abstract
evidence.
mathematics.
Is consistently provide evidence in favor of a variety of conclusions. Quantum mechanics
Yeah, but
as a
that's like-
broad
that's
theory or theoretical
self-referential
analysis of
postmodern.
reality. I haven't finished speaking. Is one of the most well confirmed
Interrupted.
theories that we currently have for describing reality. I mean, many aspects of quantum mechanics are confirmed to the 16th or 18th decimal place. This is found nowhere
Okay, so
else.
if you don't have a
So you can
definition
claim they're
for a
not
word, are you
proven, and
saying
sure, in
anything?
the technical sense, they're not proven. But to sit here and deny the reliability and the consistency of quantum mechanics as a theoretical analysis is just absurd.
That's what God believers say about God.
Okay, but do you have a definition of the words? Or are you just going to change the symbols and the definitions?
What words?
like, all
What words
day?
would you like me to define?
Father and son.
Thing. The word thing.
Nobody
The word
knows
thing. By thing, I just mean an
Yes.
entity or an object that can be considered by rational thought.
Sure.
Science
So
is always
actually
gonna
define that
use
though. Like,
I just did
like, what
define
is
it.
it
An entity
composed
or
of?
object
Yeah,
that can
what's
be
it co- what
considered.
is-
That can be
Sure, what's
considered.
it composed
so
of?
for me, things aren't just concrete objects.
what
I take
requires
abstracted to be
rational
things too.
What requires?
Sure, I think thoughts exist.
I don't know what you
How
mean by
did Picasso
require
come up with-
rational thought.
He's just trying to get you caught up in
What-
placing the burden
you
of proof
said
all over
you
on you.
said it requires rational thoughts. I'm just trying to make sure.
What did I say
what would
requires
make it-
rational thought?
God.
God. What? When did I say that?
You just said it.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you want me to go back like 2 minutes
No,
ago?
no. I think you misunderstood him, Jeff. He was saying to prove things as in regards to the scientific theory explanation he was making.
Requires deductive argumentation,
Requires
usually relegated to the realms of logic.
Yeah,
and
so
mathematics. That's
an
what I said.
unresolving decimal place doesn't have a terminus or a defined substance. That's not actually a number. You didn't present a mathematical
you mean.
conclusion.
I have no
You didn't
idea
present a mathematical a unresolving decimal place is not a number because it doesn't have a terminus or a defined substance.
Are
Go look
you
at the
saying
equations and tell me.
99.999 repeating indefinitely isn't a number? Because I assure you
It
that
is not a number. It does not.
Yes,
it does
it
not
is.
have a defined boundary or substance.
You don't need defined
You're actually
boundary.
retarded,
There are infinite numbers
If you dig
in
enough into number
transfinite
theory,
arithmetic.
and if you have a fucking ratio, then you have to define geometry, which isn't defined
yeah, you're
either.
you're just literally saying things. Absolutely nothing that
why
you're
I
saying.
say
is
what the
irrelevant.
function even is.
When I look at a tree.
So tell me what a function
you
is.
look
Can
at
you
an
tell me what it means
unresolving
to take the derivative of a
ratio.
function?
Can we speed
How about
date him and
integrate over
Rocky?
a
I'm
function?
saying you need a number theory.
Gentlemen, can we go one at a time? And before we do, I'm going to read for our simp bucks coming in. Alex Bowler came in with the big one to show support. Nico Pluto coming in with the big 2 saying Sarah's so funny. I'm really not. Rich S with the big 2. The women aren't funny. Thank you, Nightbot. Rich S with the big 2. The only big bangs that are real are Sarah's. Thank you. K2 keep on trucking with the big 2 saying simp for Sarah. Jay Ruz with the big 5. Was Jesus Christ a historical person? Isn't that objective?
Yeah.
No.
Most scholars
Yeah,
who are
there's a
subject
lot of
matter
evidence.
experts
He's
think that there
the
was
most-
a historical Jesus.
First of
Yes.
all, his name was Yeshua ben Yosef, and the fact that he's spoken in another language, Jesus Christ, and arguably, if not the most influential person throughout human history, is a great argument that it's not objective. It's
What about
just statistically true. It's not a fallacy or an opinion or a theory.
Genghis Khan fathered more
He's
children.
the most recorded person that ever
We're
existed.
talking about history. He said historical person. We're not talking about who changed
Yeah.
the carbon footprint of China by 25%.
Hold up. Just because there's a guy that was named Jesus that existed does not mean that guy who like that Jesus is God.
Oh yeah,
You
just
realize
because
that.
people say
Okay, use your modern
I
writing
was just
techniques
answering
and
the
write a
question.
better
It is
book.
not objective. It is not objective to say he's a historical person. It is just truth. He is easily one of the most prominent figures of human history in all aspects of major Judeo-Abrahamic religions and cultures.
But it doesn't prove that he is God.
Yeah, but that's not what the question was.
that wasn't the question. Yeah.
That was the question.
No.
Like, why are you bringing it up in the first place?
Historical. Is he historical?
Because this is the same argument you're saying. Why would all these intelligent people why would Jesus? Why would they have all this evidence for Jesus existing? Like that's the main point you're
Okay,
making.
so what are the results of the principles compared to modern ideas?
Yeah, so I gave an example of this of where religion can get dangerous is because if you take on faith that you have this all powerful God, all knowing God, right, and that he's infallible.
Peter, I heard it.
It falls on its face because firstly, there are Muslims, Jews, and Christians that don't believe we have free will. They believe that everything is predetermined by God. And once you do that, you fuck out all judicial systems. And that itself is already dangerous. Right?
Teriak, is there anything in between those two?
Second of all, if God is all-knowing, infallible, then God knows the
those are the
future, which
only two
commits us to fatalism, which is why that's why they have the belief of predeterminism.
Right, but Teriak, as someone who practices law, I can assure you the foundation of every judicial practice from Great Britannia, British Saxonia, all the laws from Oxford, all the way into what we have in the jurisprudence system of the United States, were based on a foundation of what the monarchical understanding of God is. Like that's essentially how laws were created in Western countries, which are the most influential in countries around the world.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that Christians will say that we have free will, but then they'll ignore the fact that they also claim that God is all-knowing. If God is all-knowing, then God knows the future, but God is also infallible and cannot be wrong. So if God knows the future, then our future is fixed. It cannot change, which is fatalism, which contradicts free will.
You act like there's nothing in between.
And we're ignoring the fact that Calvinists actually is a fundamental belief that it's predetermined. Muslims believe that in predeterminism. Jews believe
Okay, but the Bible shows people making choices, and then when God decides, His will overrides.
I agree with what you just said. Just really quick, guys. I'm sorry. I don't want us talking over each other because people get mad and it's hard to hear each other. And I do it a lot too, so I try to catch myself. I'm sorry, guys. I do it more than anyone, honestly. I agree with that, Teriak, and through my research of all these religions and all this stuff, I genuinely believe free will is the greatest test on behest of the Creator for mankind. So I agree with you in that sense that if you're allowing your free will to be subdued by what you're saying is blind faith, then yes, you're missing the entire test of what we're here for. That's just my personal opinion.
All right, so real quick.
Yeah, I agree.
Real quick.
I believe that just because God knows what's the future doesn't mean that we don't have free will. Just like Peter,
yes, it does.
God knew Peter was gonna, deny Christ 3 times before the cock crowed, but that doesn't mean.
Yes, it does mean.
He
It
just
does
knew.
mean that.
He knew, but he didn't.
It does
he
mean
didn't
that,
force-
Rocky.
He didn't force Peter to decide that.
If God knows the course,
just
then that
free
means
will.
that there is no other option.
No,
that means they don't
he-
have free will.
no,
I'm just curious what the entailment is between God's foreknowledge of events and their predetermination.
So there's
Leo, one sec, let me clarify. When Jesus told Peter, "You will deny me 3 times," could Peter have done otherwise?
Yes.
So God can be wrong.
He could have.
God can or cannot be wrong.
Wouldn't, because
Can God be wrong? Yes or no?
In the Christian worldview, it's generally taken as no. God cannot be wrong.
Yeah. So if he can't be wrong, then Peter could not have denied him.
Oh, yeah, he could have, and if he did, then God would have known that Peter was going to do that instead.
No, what I'm saying is when Jesus told Peter, "You will deny me 3 times," he prophesied, "You will deny me 3 times." Could Peter have done otherwise?
Can God change his mind, Teriak?
So he could do, so God could be wrong. So Jesus could have been wrong.
Can God change his mind, Teriak?
Had Peter done otherwise, God would have known that he was going to do that.
So then the prophecy would have been wrong. One sec. So the prophecy would have been wrong, Leo.
Maybe you're wrong.
Yeah, the prophecy would.
Yeah. So God. So this is the whole thing. The claim is that God is infallible. God cannot be wrong.
Why are you running from my question?
There's a contradiction here.
Listen.
What if you're wrong? That solves it.
The question's not real. It's just a thought.
Hold on, everyone, shut the fuck up. It's not a
let me answer
contradiction.
Cocky to say.
But even if I granted that,
The Bible says that God knows your decisions, knows all
Jesus,
your
Rocky, come on, bro.
Let me finish. I'm not done. It also
You're literally never done.
Nico Pluto in with a big 2 saying, don't simp for Sarah, just to be fair. J Ruz with a big 5 says, is that historical with witnesses? That was not the question. So the question was, J Ruz said, was Jesus Christ a historical person? And isn't that objective?
Man, I feel so stupid right now. Why am I not Flo, help me out here.
You should feel normal then.
I guess I totally missed the ball on his question. I don't know what he's saying.
I don't know either.
So Teriak, real quick, I'm going to grant your argument. Yes, it's predetermined, and it says every knee will bow and every tongue shall confess. So everyone's going to be a Christian in the end. You lose.
No,
isn't it
again? One sec. Here's the danger. Here's the danger. Yeah, no. I'll accept that. I'll accept the answer. One sec. Let me respond. Right, I'll accept that answer. Here's the danger with fucking the whole kind of believing in God, all this kind of shit. Because like I said, predeterminist. It's all predetermined. All this kind of shit. So, by your own definition here, our judicial systems are moral.
That's not what the Bible says.
We don't have free will. How can you punish someone that they don't actually have a choice?
Free will to the very end.
Yes, Teriak, that part is true.
And
yeah, so this one saying this is the danger of this shit.
Enjoy your time backstage. Mechanize, Ether. K2, keep on trucking in with the big 2. One at a time, please. Thank you. J Ruz with the big 5 saying, Jesus, Yeshua, cloud of fire, angel of the Lord. And so, Teriak, the directions for you are to the back, please, for spewing rubbish and not having your camera on. Are you indecent or something? Yes, Teriak actually prefers to join these panels nude, but we tell him he has to cam down because he knows that's not allowed. And Robert Demita in with the big 10 to say, thank you for the stream today, Sarah. You ruled, dude. Thanks, bro. Appreciate you. All right, gentlemen, back to you.
Isn't
so I'm the only Christian that's gonna say everyone else is wrong. Like Christianity's right, everything else is wrong. You'll never hear that from anybody. Everyone's straight wrong.
Well,
that's what's happening.
You'd be surprised. I think when people get out of their box, you'd be surprised how many people you meet that are very determined the way they believe is the truth. And I think that's why I respect atheists and agnostics so much in those conversations, because they have a willingness to actually hear you out and then present their argument because they're already outside of the box.
I'm just saying it because
into the
no one among Christians does. Because it's like this confusion about like peacefulness
Dude, I hear
or some
Christians
shit.
say that all the time. Like,
well,
I can't tell you how many times Cameron Bertuzzi, who runs Capturing Christianity, probably the premier Christian apologist channel on YouTube, consistently says, by the way, Christianity is true. When he says that, he's saying all other not-Christianity worldviews are false.
Yeah, there's a lot
so,
of
like, Christians are saying this all the time. What do you mean?
Believe, you know?
Would he punch somebody in the face about it? Because I mean, that's like in the Bible.
No.
With the money
Why
changing,
would I do that?
Like flip the tables. Well, because Jesus beat the crap out of people.
That's cool. I'm not Jesus, and I don't beat the crap out of people for disagreeing with me.
I'm just saying people don't read the Bible.
I'm not barbaric. Why would I read the Bible?
People just don't read the Bible. Dude came down with the ability to snap his fingers and make people explode. He was chill for his ridiculous power.
I'm sure
that's how the story goes.
He could make people explode.
Yeah, that's like how the story goes. I mean, I don't care if you want to treat it as true or false, but that's how the story goes.
And
whether
Ross
it's- oh, sorry.
on in with a big 5, sort of on topic, I suppose. Can someone tell me where heaven is? I've been fretting over this lately. Thanks.
It's in a
That's
half
a great
pipe.
question.
3 levels.
Half
3
pipe.
levels to heaven. One exists, it's the sky. The other one that exists in the physical form is space. And then there's a third, which Christians believe in, which would be the one outside of the physical realm. It's heaven outside of the physical realm.
Do you
How do we
think
go
there's
to
Yeah, people don't know, but in Revelation, heaven comes to earth after the like resolution of the fall.
So it's
Like
And
physically manifest heaven on earth minus problems.
Teriak, you've been revived, my friend.
You call
by
7, 8,
Rude
9.
Mudcrab.
Can we go at it? I
Nico Pluto in with the big 50. Yes, there is a God, the source. Are you sure who you are summoning? Be careful.
So that's like a crazy question because Aleister Crowley, most people don't know him, some do. But like, do you think he was just a nut job? Like that guy is one of the most arguably influential people of his time and was like on the cover of the Beatles album and stuff. And he was so into using this idea of what we would call in traditional cultures black magic or Santeria or hoodoo voodoo, in the sense that you can actually summon entities from, arguably other dimensions or what you could call demons or jinn. And a lot of people think this is just conspiracy theory hogwash, but for me as a student of knowledge, even though I clearly don't have enough, I try to learn every day, and I find all of this just as credible as Einstein or Newton or Tesla, Nikolai. All these people to me are just as equal in regards to how they've impacted the human race and what people believe in. So I try to see it in that way. I don't just go, oh, because these people are scientists and these people are just esoteric philosophers like Helena Blavatsky, who influenced Adolf Hitler when he read, her books in jail. It's
I
like
can't
these are
imagine
things that I'm
what
looking at. It's like
conversations are
yeah,
like
but
around.
those people weren't accredited neuroscientists in their field, and they hold so much weight with people who aren't clearly crazy.
Okay, but he did fail to summon the apocalypse by having butt sex in front of the pyramid that one time.
What the
The other stuff might have worked a little bit.
Is Satan evidence of God?
Do you have evidence
I would
of
think
Satan?
so.
Yeah, do you have
Isn't-
that
isn't
evidence?
Satan
A lot of people do find God through
necessarily have
realizing evil
Satan as
exists first.
That's the second knowledge claim or some shit that they were talking about earlier.
Like, think when shit is so unbearable, you're like, this can only be evil. This makes no material sense.
I would prefer not to go into the second knowledge thing anymore this evening. Jay Russ with a big 5 saying, do you have the willingness to listen to the angel of the Lord, such as atheists listen to you?
No, I'm bored.
Who, me? I don't know. I'll spice this up. I dropped some computer code. I was talking to DeepSeek earlier about using binary magnetic switches to do both binary logic and having and doubling functions with parallel
For
processing.
somebody as smart as you are, I figured you would at least figure out why your Wi-Fi sucks by now.
It works just fine. I mean, I literally just fixed it. This shit makes computers 100 times faster for free.
Well,
I already worked out a new
does everybody else
code and
see this?
compiler and everything.
Is it just me?
Is it the camera?
Hey, hold on.
He's a reptilian. Somebody call David Icke.
He's compiling something else on his
2080.
computer now. I bet you.
28 pixels.
Yeah,
This is what happens when you
But
use an Intel processor.
Free open source supercomputer code that just bootstraps onto your potato that you have there. It uses halving and doubling functions. Like binary code can be treated as halving and doubling functions, so it skips every complex process and makes shit a fucking supercomputer for no money.
You totally missed it.
Communism is cringe. In with their membership chat. Teriak, you Scottish fool. Foreknowledge does not equate to causation.
Exactly.
Proud of
Come
you.
on
There's
now,
no way
Sarah.
I can
You can
say
say
that.
communism with more umph in it than that.
No,
You gotta
it's
make
not.
it sound
It's
scary.
got an N.
Communism.
It's got an N in there if you look closely.
There's an in there.
Oh, communism.
That's what I'm saying. I couldn't have said that. There's no way. I can't read that out loud.
Communism?
Communism.
Let's do a bunch of tongue twisters.
Welfare.
But that was the point that I was trying to make, is mere foreknowledge of an event's occurrence does not equate to determining that event specifically to happen or to in any sort of way causing it to happen.
You can't
So
have knowledge.
You
of
just
something
know
that's
that
not
it's going to happen.
Say that in,
the fact
like,
that
not-
it doesn't not happen and God knows that it doesn't not happen does not mean that God's causing it to
Blah,
not
blah, blah.
So you
Yeah.
could have chosen otherwise.
Yeah, knowing-
It's just that had you chosen otherwise, God would have known that that was your choice instead.
Yeah, and knowing quantum physics.
Yeah, but I
does-
think, like, aren't you misunderstanding the terminology or the definition of what we would think is omnipotent? Because a lot of faiths and religion don't believe this idea of a Holy Spirit or some force that can control everything and determines everything. They believe the very existence of the universe we experience is that it's like in the material essence. And a great example would be, and I'm not Hindu, I'm a Sikh, I went to Catholic school, but a great example would be
Sikhs are
Hinduism.
based.
They believe in every, I mean, they have thousands of gods outside of the three dharmatic, the god of like beginning, the middle, and then the ending of the world, the Kali, the crazy goddess of death or whatever. But they believe in so many things. Like they have temples for rats and elephants and monkeys, and so it's like, and this is the second oldest culture in the world after ancient Babylon and Sumerian, Sanskrit, the language that they spoke, that during World War II a certain country was very obsessed with, right? I'm sure you guys know if you're in tune. But it's just like, that's what I'm saying. Like you got to understand that God, according to what you think, might not be what billions of other people around the world think. They might think of God as something a lot more simple and not something you can control or understand. It just is. Accept it or don't.
but
Wanna
then
make
Chinese language.
And Jay Ruz wanted to clarify that it was for you, AJ. The question was for you, so I'll ask it again. Do you have the willingness to listen to the angel of the Lord, such as atheists listen to you?
Well, I've kind of explained this before. Like, you can go to a church, a mosque, a temple, and people are there observing each other more than they seem to be in tune with what they're there for. However, if you're into having a dog or a pet that you can take on a walk on a trail, when you're away from noise pollution and you hear like birds chirping and you can kind of listen to yourself, like your thoughts, and be in tune with the earth. I know that sounds so hippie and new agey, but that's where I feel closest to God. And I think once any human being understands what it means to be good or bad, and I think Mark made a great point earlier in regards to what can be good or bad and how it can be, conceived or portrayed. But ultimately, there is a narrative of what we know in 2025 around the world with all this technology, what's okay and what's not okay. So it's like, when you understand these things, I find peace when you say angel of the Lord, when I'm by myself closest to nature, away from this, thing we've created, which we call our society, right? And I think that's why we're here even talking about this stuff, because if we had all the answers, we wouldn't be debating it so intensely every day.
Thank you, AJ. And mechanized ether in with the Big Ten. He is sitting backstage. He has been waiting a while, and he says, if I knew that I would have been knocked off in 20 seconds, I would have spoken over the other speakers right away. Well, Mr. Ether, whatever, welcome to the club. There's like 5 more of you sitting backstage waiting for their turn to talk. It's been a very long night. That backstage and panel has been full all evening. Unfortunately, we can't always just get what we want, and I get to determine who goes up left, right, center. But also, Rude Mudcrab paid to bring Teriak back if you were paying attention, and you were the last person up, so I had to remove you back off. Okay, so that's how.
I'll get off in a second here, just for other people, because all I really wanted to do was argue about how God could use miracles so people could know stuff, and point out that I worked on this computer code that's going to make everything like infinite memory effectively and speed. Yeah, dude, go look it up. Literally go talk to fucking DeepSeek and talk about using binary switches as having and doubling circuits as well, alternatingly with like a code switching circuit to control the and just ask it what the mathematical improvement is to hard code exponential mathematics into a fucking potato computer. And you'll see that it's like literally equivalent to a supercomputer, and these streams will run completely smooth at maximum fucking pixels and all this bullshit. Doubling and halving mathematics, literally because it's a fucking magnetic switch. You can alternate between binary and fucking whatever, skip the whole shit. I'm literally fixing it right now for free, motherfucker.
Tell you what, Yeah.
I'm fixing your shit too, and everyone else's fucking shit that doesn't work. Blah blah
Thank you.
blah.
I mean,
Anyway, fucking peace, retards.
Hey, Salmon Fish, do you know what a GPU is? Oh shit, he left.
What's up, Mechanized? How you doing, bud?
Schizophrenia for the
All
win.
right.
Jesus.
Schizophrenia.
Cool.
for the
I'm
win.
good. I'm
That
good.
guy's salmon's an odd one for sure.
Is it a
Never-
signal?
Huh?
I hear a lot of non-believers over here on this panel.
Praise
I think
God.
I've had a lot
the
of
only
reason
one?
to believe. I've had plenty of reasons to believe, so I'm going to ask you guys. Take a water droplet on a hard panel and notice that there's a dome. If water is H2O and H2O2 is hydrogen peroxide, what is this factor that causes the water to create a dome shape and not just disperse?
Surface
If not,
Cohesion.
Surface tension, yeah.
God. That's God. God is in the
yeah,
water.
that's the
droplet.
word
I'm
of God.
sorry. I got it
That's
wrong.
God's command.
Water
That is just one example.
That must
This is
be why,
God's command.
things fall down, because God says you will.
There
fall
you have
down.
it. There you have it. Our debate over.
Well,
Physics,
sometimes you may have to send yourself over the ledge to see how well you survive. How
Do you
many
bet
of
on
you
so-
went over the ledge to see if you
Have you ever
survived?
been in solitary confinement?
There is a
No.
terminal velocity for humans falling.
It's 120
People have
miles an hour.
survived yeah,
So-
people have
so-
survived full falls out of the planes.
So from what I'm gathering from your
Some
point,
people can survive real hardships in this world.
can anybody who doesn't believe in God, that doesn't believe he exists, can you explain cohesion?
Like atomic cohesion?
No, cohesion, just any cohesion at all.
Yeah, but
Atomic
what does
cohesion,
that mean? Because that could be used in a variety of different
Science can't
contexts
really
that
explain
do not
cohesion.
cross.
Yeah, why-
So,
why
like,
do certain
Why
things
do you keep treating words as if they're univocal?
At a time. My patience
I love your point,
is,
Ether.
is like
Good point.
right here, gentlemen.
And she'll cut us off now too, man. It's just, Sarah don't play no more. She'll cut you off with the edit.
Mm-hmm.
I think the atheist guy that was up, the bald-headed guy, he was saying that in order to know something, you got to believe it first, and if you believe something, doesn't mean you know something. But okay, but you first have to believe it, right? So
I believe
Okay.
I'm a tomato, and I know I'm a tomato.
All right.
I mean, the human body's very similar to
I-
a tomato,
I-
like structure-wise. We're
I
just
studied
balloons
the
of blood.
biology,
Pop
I
us when we
studied the
believe.
chemistry, and they cannot explain why a water droplet creates a dome over itself.
Explain why a water droplet makes a snowflake.
It only makes a dome in a gravitational field. A water droplet in a vacuum of space wouldn't make a dome.
Would it be round?
It
Would
would
it
be
be
round.
round?
Yeah.
It would be round. Why would it
Okay,
not
so
disperse?
A dome
Why
is
would it not
round.
disperse?
There's
Because
two
of
domes.
cohesion.
There's two domes there, one on top of another.
What is this process of cohesion? Explain it.
It's when like atoms will stick together because they're like. Have you ever picked up a glass of say water? It was sitting on a coaster on a table, and the coaster comes up with the glass. That's because of cohesion between the water molecules on the glass and the water molecules on the coaster. Since they're like atoms, they will want to stick together. This is why like water sticks together. Like when a river flows, there's not like gaps because
Why
the
does it do that?
molecules are all flowing over each other. They're sticking together as a result.
Are you
of
are you
atomic
describing
bonding
like
process.
condensation, like in a car when you're defrosting?
No, I'm describing cohesion.
Like glue.
I'm trying to understand it because you're clearly a lot smarter than me in the scientific realm. So I'm like trying to wrap my head around it. But like, you know, are you talking about because the glass, the water isn't essentially.
He's talking about how the water runs down the outside of the glass, makes a puddle when you pick up the the coaster. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
That-
like the
fact that
windshield of
there's
a car
water-
getting wet on the inside, right? Yeah.
The fact that there's water on the glass and water on the coaster is the reason they stick together. The air can't penetrate in because the water acts as a seal. Now, once you turn the glass sideways, it slides off like there's no contact with it because there isn't. It's literally floating on a lens of water.
Why
That
does
was
that
beautifully
water
put, Swatch.
droplet
Thank you
have
for
a
that.
seal?
I'm good at that part.
Yeah, what's the seal for?
Or no, it is
Okay, why?
Why?
Atomic process.
cohesion. He just laid it out perfectly.
So that's called circular reasoning.
This is not
You
what
can get
circular
into the-
reasoning is.
Oh,
It's
just,
around
just because it is.
glass and sat them on
That
top of
is-
each other.
That is no. It is because it is circular reasoning.
But I didn't say it is because it is. So you must have misheard what I said.
No, that actually it was Caucasian Sasquatch. But go ahead.
It was me.
And Nico Pluto coming in with the 20. I'm assuming just for me to tell you to fuck off, all of you. I hate all of you. And Nico, if you had directions for that, tag me in the chat and we can come back to it. J Ruse with the Big 10 for love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, and it is not easily angered.
Hey Sarah, how you doing?
Hey, 10th man, how are
You having fun?
I'm tired.
You know,
gonna
after
explain
doing
how
this
magnets work? I've been
Everyone-
watching in the chat.
Sarah,
get mad
after
at
doing
us
this
for
for a
not
long time, and watching you do it, and I'm in the chats, and I'm hanging out in the chats, completely understand now why people just stay in the chat. It's
Hey,
no
the
stress.
suspense is killing me, dude. You've been asking how magnets work
I
in
know.
the chat.
I'm leading up to it.
Just
There's
tell
no
us.
stress
No,
in the
just
chat.
Tell us. No,
I
because
want to
you've been
know.
asking, nobody
I want to
answered.
know. So I see there's a lot of brain scientists and rocket surgeons up here. So anybody who wants to answer, preferably Kermit the autistic frog there. How do magnets work? Explain it to me, because all these people want to explain how math and science and I'm a genius. Well, Insane Clown Posse posed a question to me a long time ago that broke all the stuff that all the scientists, and they said scientists ruining all the mystery and S word. How do magnets work?
When I asked this
No one can-
question to
no-
my physics professors, they couldn't explain it to me.
Yeah,
That's right.
magnets
You
work.
must have had pretty
Magnets-
poor physics professors because it's
Yeah,
not hard.
mag-
We have a whole
magnets
theory
work-
that explains how they work.
Yeah, so magnets work due to the behavior of electrons in certain materials. In simple terms, a magnet is an object that produces a magnetic field which attracts or repels other magnets or
Yep,
magnetic
how's that work?
materials like iron.
Has
Yeah.
the magnetic
So
field
it's
work
got to do with the
attract
behavior
everything?
of the electrons. Yeah, it's got to do
Right,
with the
and you can
behavior of the
explain that. You
electrons.
just say the behavior of the electrons, and then
Yeah,
you're
so-
smart.
Somebody
so,
told him how it works.
electrons,
The
well,
electrons are
like that
negatively
basically
I've
what I
asked
said about
real
anything.
scientists this, and I've researched this for nigh on
Mm-hmm.
15, 20 years, and no one knows how magnets work.
Someone
you can
told
tell
him
me
how.
you think they work, but you can't actually
it's got to do
explain
with
how it
electrons.
works. So right there, that along with a lot of other stuff gives me humility. And I don't see a whole lot of humility around.
Tens man, my mama
Hey,
said.
hey, you know I'm always humble.
My mama says.
Magnets that I find in the creek, the little black sand, that it's magnetic, and it's in the creek. There's natural magnetics, and then you can make a magnet by wrapping.
We need to make a shirt, Rocky Shepherd. You can make a magnetic.
You can make an iron rod magnetic by
Yep, it's
by wrapping-
ferromagnetic.
by sending current through it.
Mm-hmm. Electricity.
Yes,
baby.
that's called induction.
Yeah, but
Rocky might be my favorite comedian on YouTube.
Unintentional one.
So second question, since no one can answer that one. Is fire alive?
I just did.
I could answer.
No, fire's a plasma.
They can answer. They're just not very good at it. But go ahead, 10th man.
Somebody's mic just
no one explained how magnets worked.
No, they didn't. I agree.
They work via
Well, do you
vector
want
fields.
do you want a 2-hour lecture about it, or like there's
Yeah,
a
you could-
simplified
that's kind of
version
the
of
thing.
it?
You know what?
You're
I
kidding
will
me. I
open
could
up
ask
my
Google
panel.
AI right now, and it would have a shorter answer than a 2-hour lecture.
I have asked my physics professor to explain to me how gravity works. What is gravity? And they couldn't make a reasonable explanation.
It's probably because
Okay, one sec. Let me flip on 10th man. 10th man. How do people work?
Why?
It's
Why?
literally
What's
what
the
Terry
deal?
said.
So
People
come
don't
to
exist in
YouTube.
alignment. It's literally what Teriak said. It's due to the alignment of tiny magnetic domains within certain materials like iron, where electrons spin in the same direction, creating a net magnetic field with a north and south pole.
And that's what you read. So somebody
What do you
told
say
you.
about your nuts? Look, how do
Well, I mean,
magnets
that's
work? I feel like I
a
was
dirt
actually
question.
summoned
Why
for
is
this.
the sunset good?
Guys,
It's the same kind of argument.
You know what they say, 10th, right? How
Hey,
do magnets work? I don't want to talk to a scientist. Y'all motherfuckers lying and getting me pissed.
Just saying. you getting it? You getting it?
And his voice went out.
Sarah, put me down when the panel's full. It's
You're ugly. Your mama dresses you funny.
Oh shit.
Yes, I agree. To myself.
Don't tell me
yeah.
what to do, 10th man.
Yeah, punch him in the stuff.
Wait, he meant for you to take him down. I just put him down. It's okay.
See, magnets work because God said they do.
I agree.
Prove me wrong.
Yeah, this one time in that song, he talks about a bird trying to eat his cell phone and then the other guy running away. It's a pretty good song. I derailed everything. Hi.
Speaking of the insane clown posse,
Hi, Trippy.
What
Yeah.
is a juggalo?
I was summoned. Well, a juggalo is someone who can eat Connect 4 and shit out something. I forgot the lyrics.
Eat Monopoly.
Eat Monopoly and shit out Connect 4. Thank you.
My type of person.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. I didn't think this was going to ICP.
It's been a while since I listened to any of those songs, to be honest.
The
I like
90s.
Twisted more. I wasn't into them until after the 90s. Like I got both the good and the bad by the time I found out who they were. The good being like mostly skits, you know.
Who put a quarter in your jukebox, bro? What got you up here tonight? Who pulled your string?
Yeah, the Magnets comment. I think Sarah just ditched us.
Oh, I was about to say I didn't notice that she left.
yeah, you know, it
I'm gonna
happens.
poke somebody.
Oh, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
There you got your chance
don't
now, Mel. Let's
believe
do
it.
it.
I do
Madam?
not believe it.
Does that say Pickle Master? Okay.
So, can I ask a question? Were all my chats this whole time that I was typing over on Dusty's coming through over on Sarah's too? The whole time?
Through the StreamYard. Like if
Yeah,
you type it in the
it's
StreamYard
StreamYard.
chat, it will.
Oh, okay. All right. Good.
Yeah.
Good. I didn't want all that nonsense to come out to
That drives
700 people.
engagement on the lower channels. The smaller channels that don't have people in chat, it drives the engagement way up.
I thought it
really
was
does.
spamming for me. I was like, wow, this is the easiest time I've ever had spamming a chat.
Spam in the morning at work. Spam.
Melanie, what's been up with you, Melanie? You're like freaking out today. What's going on?
I'm freaking out.
No, it's just
yeah,
Melanie.
in the chat, you're like McDonald's serving $1 billion a day nonstop. Bah, 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 bah.
Oh, we were talking about what were we talking about? Basically, wait, who was I talking with? That's what I gotta remember.
10th man.
10th man. We were talking about what were we talking about, 10th man?
In the chat?
Yeah, what were we arguing about?
That your husband's an engineer.
No, that was
and
after.
I'm
Holy fuck yeah, I have been going crazy.
well, we're not going to do last panel again tonight, so
No,
other than that.
that's not it either.
Mel,
We were arguing about something.
When are you and what's that guy's name? What's that dude's name with the hat that comes on here? Shit, I forgot his name.
Jim
Flow
Bob?
State. Flow State.
Oh.
When are you and Flo gonna get married?
Oh shit.
That must be for 10th man.
I'm trying to summon Flo.
Oh no, I was just taking digs at you about train stuff.
He got ditched backstage earlier.
Oh, okay.
No,
tends to take-
he left. We're actually we're gonna send a raid over to Flow State. Caucasian, say goodbye quickly.
Goodbye, Caucasian.
Rock E, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
AJ, say goodbye.
Love you, sir. Keep them coming. These debates are fucking awesome. Fuck the haters. You guys are idiots. This is content. Love you guys. Bye.
Bricky, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Curious Contrarian, say goodbye.
Peace. You guys have a good night.
10th man, say goodbye.
Not all that's glitter is gold.
Leo, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Ether, say goodbye.
Bye.
Pickle Master, say goodbye.
Christmas chat, I was going to say, you guys failed. You grifted horribly. You need to start grifting better. Give Sarah your money. She deserves it.
That's
All
right.
Peace out, y'all.
That's right. I like you. Teriak, say goodbye.
Trippy Cast eat corn a long way.
I do. I enjoy it with flow. We start at one end and we meet in the middle.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye,
Cast.
everybody. Bye.
How are you?
Huh?
How are you?
Oh, I get to stay. Okay. I'm doing
for a
pretty good.
second. Yeah. Anything fun going on around the YouTube streets?
No, just politics stuff. Like that thing with Trump and the whole sharing. Some people in his thing shared some stuff on Signal, and I guess accidentally invited a politician, or not a politician. They accidentally invited some journalist, and the journalist caught them guys talking about attacking Hamas and stuff. But besides that, not too much
Fair
really.
enough. All right.
My cat learned how to fly. It's crazy.
Was this part of a launch effort?
No, I bought him wings for Halloween, and apparently he learned how to use them.
Oh, interesting. Well,
Yeah, put it in Grok.
Okay. I was gonna say, can we say goodbye, Trippy?
Goodbye, Trippy.
And everyone, anyone, I don't care who the fuck you are at this point. I'm so tired. I'm so done. And quite frankly, the conversation was too nerdy. It was getting way too fucking nerdy for me. I hope you all enjoyed the debate this evening. It was pretty well calm, cool, and collected. I was excited. They had a very intelligent conversation, but it did become quite circular. Shout out Brick for the big 2. Thanks for being nice. You're welcome. I try my best. Only when people absolutely, positively disrespect me on my own fucking panel is when I don't be nice. So outside of that, we're going to go raid Flow over on the Powder Dusty. So be sure during the raid you send fucking tomatoes when you enter his chat. Outside of that, Thursday night, make sure your notification bell is on. We've got Ken Harborough from Midas Touch. We've got Not So Erudite, Jake Rattlesnake from Rattlesnake TV, and made by Jim Bob. Jim Bob, as you all know, who likes to troll our chat and have some fun with you. We'll be debating feminism. Yay, another feminism debate, but it will be fun. I know this group is going to have a lot of contention. It's going to be very hard to keep them reeled in. So I'll stop prattling. Rocky Shepherd with the big 5. Thank you, Rocky.
A long time ago, in a YouTube world full of keyboard warriors, many monsters and trolls lurked in the chat rooms. They thrived on arguments amongst each other until one day, a heroine rose from the ashes. She was made from the tears of beta bitches and the sweat of alpha male gym guys. Throughout the centuries, this keyboard warrior princess showed up in many forms. She slayed many demons along the way. By the light of the moon, she led the Simp army into battle. Wielding her sword, she fought through the dark forests. With each new era, the monsters evolved. The keyboard warrior princess grew stronger, with new skills to bring them down. The world around her advanced, but so did she. Her heroism became known to society as technology advanced. And with each new generation, she had to learn how to blend in to keep her identity hidden. Now known as the Raging Tomato, this keyboard warrior princess fights for justice in every debate. She fights for freedom, for moderator bias, and she fights for your ability to battle on an open panel for your beliefs. She protects the Simp troopers from destruction. She fights to create peace among troll wars. She storms the battle zones without hesitation and leaves the battleground with her pockets full of souls. Are you ready to battle your fellow trolls? Are you ready for a moderator to give you time to talk? Are you ready for justice, peace, and a fair fight? Tune in every Monday night to watch your friends duke out their issues, or join the open panel so that you can fight the good fight and find resolution with your peers.